It's on. Streams up. It should be going to all the things. Oh, holy shit. See the what? Every time you say that, it worries me. Oh my god, yes. They're so. Look, Discord's a nice company with nice people working at it, and I'm saying that because my friends work there. But genuinely, genuinely, they're just weird as fuck. Like this is why I can't email Discord support if I have if I have a problem, because they have this really bad, like really annoying attitude that's like doesn't take things super seriously, and it just no. For me, that's just a no. Like then I'm sure they're lovely people, and I'm sure for most people this is fun. For me, it's just weird. Whenever I email, like I don't know, I'm so old school. Whenever I email support staff, I expect to talk to like just an annoyed person who just wants to do the job and leave me alone and not speak to me again. Like I love Barclays support staff. They're always annoyed. They're always tired. They always hate talking to you, and they're super efficient because they don't want to talk to you more than necessary. Is that like a bad thing to like? I don't know. They do, but they're like really good outsource. It's a really good outsource. Like I like it. Um, what was I gonna say? I have watched hours of content preparing for this moment. I mean, I need you to give me the Asian experience. I need you to give me what kids these days would
Don't
call what? I'm not fetishizing it. Jesus Christ, dude. I love how that's what you took it though. You're like, don't fetishize it. My culture is not your fetish. Hey, Rainbow. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me move the server. Shit, I forgot.
You're cutting out again. I'm sure I am.
Singapore. Save changes.
Hello, hello. Let's
Okay.
see.
I'm doing
Okay,
like a
that's
lot
better.
of. Kaz, you there?
Hello, hello.
I hate technology. Hey, Rainbow Pegasus. What's good, buddy? What's good? I'm just trying to get all my audio through to my headphones. That's what happens when you got
What?
Bluetooth headphones, bud.
Why are you using Bluetooth?
Oh. Oh, whoa.
Hmm.
It's all
Oh
good,
well.
buddy. It's all good. I'm just trying to figure out why my headphones have decided that Kaz should no longer be heard. I can't hear what she's saying.
Hmm.
She showed me something horrendous a second ago. Hold on. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna restart my headphones. Hey Jenny, slides in gently. Don't say that, Jenny. That's weird. I don't know. That's just weird. We just established a moment ago that I just don't like fun. There is a small amount of packet lock. No, wait, no, wait, maybe. Let's see. You there, Kaz? Yes, good. Okay. I just need to figure out why I can't hear you. The moment I figure that out, I will be a god among men. XD. Just you're just typing at me. It's just me. All people can hear is me, so they probably think that I'm going crazy. They're ever so slightly just listening, just going, I think Nan is losing his shit right now. And I'm just like, maybe, kids. I'm obviously arguing with myself. It's just me in this room. I am alone. Oh, I fixed it.
Hello.
How bad is the quality of that though? I wonder.
Hmm.
It's a single it's a single line of. We heard a little Nen earlier. Hey Salty, what's good? How are you, friend? Oh wow.
Hello.
Oh my god. I love today though.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone on cast has like a sore throat today, so if I sound like a little bit more dead, that's why. Sorry, my
She
sad.
lives the sad life today.
Mm,
Today's topic is near and dear to my heart
yeah.
because I am
I
the
mean,
big
when
gay.
yeah, you hella gay. Like when Nen brought it to me, I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. This is more his domain than mine because I have
Oh.
the hashtag privilege of being a cishet cishet Asian yes cishet Asian like person living in Asia who doesn't who mean so I'm so you know it's got the potential to be controversial. Just
Oh,
so you
which
guys know.
reminds me, I want to tell you something I found out today that is not really related to any of this, but while reading up for this, I realized something that I don't know why I didn't realize for years. Batman is a bad guy.
Oh.
Okay. Hear me out, right? Hear me out. This is very important. All of Batman comics, Batman is the bad guy. This is why. This is why. So, Batman's entire thing is he fights the crime in Gotham, right? But if you establish from the beginning of the Batman series, Gotham had like a crime problem, but it wasn't like superhero crime. It wasn't like destroy the world level of crime. It only became that when Batman put on the suit and became the Batman, right? So if instead of becoming the Batman, he had just donated his wealth to the community to fund programs to bolster the poor and the underprivileged, they wouldn't have joined the crime families, and then he wouldn't have had to become Batman, and then the crime families wouldn't have had to take more extreme measures like hiring people like the Joker to therefore fight the Batman's overly extreme measures of stopping crime, meaning that the
Oh
only
god.
reason crime exists in Gotham as it does right now is because of Batman. Batman is a bad guy, like all the time, and he's the worst.
Basically, he like what is it like created his own problems and then like pay funded the Justice League to further fix problems. Is that what
Pretty
we're saying?
much. He is the reason why
Oh
everything is
no.
horrible in Gotham. It's his fault.
Uh,
Like the entirety of Arkham Asylum could just be Batman is a failure. Let's see why. Like it's a lot.
oh gosh.
I feel like a terrible person for saying that now because I feel like I've hurt someone who really likes Batman.
Oops. From time
Angel.
to time, like from
Hey
from time to
Mary.
time, I hear like you've got packet loss or something, but I'm not sure if I'm sounding just as bad over
No,
there
you sound perfectly
because
fine because I swapped servers. I'm probably getting a little loss your way, but no loss my way, so it's fine. Also, Mary's
is this
like,
loss?
Mary, please don't. Mary's like, that's cool, but would you like to get really red pill? Angels are demons.
Mm,
He's right. At least I think because I mean, but that's like the most backwards way of viewing it, though. Okay, no, I'm getting off track entirely. I need to start. I need to start the fucking show.
yeah, it's already. I mean, but then again, like technically we start at like 4:30 to like do a little bit warm up, and then we
Yeah,
just launch straight into it. Maybe not 10-15 minutes after.
money
So
doesn't
we
exist. It's
just
just a promise from the
demons with
computer.
money. It's just yeah. I mean, these days, yes.
Yeah, I'm so sad. My
This is
computer
where
has
is this
promised me
where
no money. Oh, no.
is this where I like just try and hack the ones and zeros so I can get a better promise.
Like the ones and zeros, so I can buy myself a soap. What's the name of the most? No, not most soap. That soap company. That soap
Mm.
comic. Sorry, that soap comic. The one about the pervert soap and the pervert S&M.
Oh, soapy must
Yeah,
soap.
soapy
What
must
about
soap.
it?
Yeah, please hack me extra money so that I can buy myself a giant must soap pillow that is basically a couch cushion that Kaz has, but I don't
Oh,
have.
which
Society
yes,
is
I
unequal.
do have like a really nice soap pillow. Paper money is money. It's credit.
America's economy. Mary, stop. No, not
Oh
today.
no.
Don't get me sidetracked, please.
By the way, what is this? Today's Kaz is with Kaz of the most terrifying Japanime. Oh no. What? I'm a Japanime?
You are a Japanime.
Oh god, yeah.
Would you like to get a really red poem? How is that even a red poem? Okay, I'm not gonna. Let me switch the scene to the start screen scene.
Oh god, but how is everyone though in the meantime though?
Yeah.
Apart from like red pilling together with us.
Apart from red pilling together with us. I mean everyone should be fine. Everyone should.
Well, I mean, unless you're in the UK, because that was.
Oh god, please stop! No, stop! Don't remind me. Oh god.
Kaz has the weirdest accent. It's like someone took 4 different accents and mixed them together like my own. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a product of living like all the different places I've lived in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a slight tinge of the Asian look because I'm which is stronger now because I've primarily lived in Malaysia now since like Brexit. Most of my experience in English media is mostly American, which is why the intonation isn't like flat British and the pronunciation is different. Yeah. But then again, I've lived in England, so you can hear a little bit of things here and there, and the words I use as well.
Queen's English, children. The Queen.
One thinks that this is absolutely disrespectful, not bloody likely. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, the accent shifts depending on who I talk to, which is the case for a lot of people. Growing up, like at least bilingual in a different country that's not in the West, like different like parent families that are not from the West.
I mean, I have that problem a lot. I sound very different to different people. This is just the voice I've chosen because most people recognize it and it's easy to understand. I like consciously choose a voice before I come online.
Man, I'm gonna sound so racist, but
Kaz, you always sound racist. It's okay. Oh god, she's like cut out. All right, guys, let's make shit up about her. Well, Kaz is like 2 foot short. She can't read. She stole the love of my life. I mean, that one's not a lie. That one's true. Wait, what the fuck? For some reason, Kaz is like not coming through at all. What's going on? What's going on? Hello, you there? I can hear you now.
It was lighting up in green and then it wasn't.
Yeah, I noticed. It just stopped going green. I didn't do anything. It was Discord.
And then later I came back and I spoke and it was still green and then you say you couldn't hear me. Yeah. So
you didn't hear all the shit I made up about you, did you?
It was a slight bit, but then I was, because I don't know if you caught what I was asking you, like when you talk to family, that's the racist thing I'll say. When you talk to family, do you go Ohasadiga Iwai?
Oh my fucking Jesus, oh god. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I only expect someone from Asia to say, to be quite honest. Most white people are too worried to say that. That hurt.
I wouldn't dare say that to like
a random person on a street. No, but I mean, like, I know what you mean, and yeah, like I speak. There's a language I can only speak when I'm home, and it's very weird because I can't speak it when I'm here, and I don't know why, and I don't remember how to speak my own language. Then I go home, and I'm not even for like a week. I mean like 10 minutes, and then my mother's speaking it at me, and I'm just like, yes, almost like
It clicks.
yeah,
It clicks.
it's like you know those moments where you're watching like anime when you're watching an anime about two incredibly smart characters and they've created a language all of a sudden and they can speak only they can speak it. It's like that, but for me.
Oh gosh.
But
I mean,
then-
talk about bilingual, except a different
Jesus Christ.
bye language.
By the way, speaking of like smart characters, have you? And this is completely off track. We're just saying random stuff for now. But have you read Bungo Stray Dogs?
I loved it. I have the first volume with me in English when it was released.
I just caught up to the end of it, and that was where I got that super smart characters thing from. And I'm not gonna lie, Bungo Stray Dogs is amazing.
Yeah. Can we like throw up like an image
Bungo
of the
Stray
cover?
Dogs? Yeah, I'm gonna fucking get it. Give me a second.
I like how you call it bungo because
I don't know how to say it. Okay, I'm a fucking gringo.
Well, in Japanese it's bungo because that's like a literary.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, well, the whole premise of the story was created by a lit professor, if I'm not wrong, just to like get his students interested in all these different Japanese like literary greats, and
I didn't know that was a thing.
Their seminal and their seminal works, except that obviously the real life Kyoka, for example, who is like this girl with twin tails and a red kimono, obviously isn't a girl.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna assume that they just. Oh my god!
They took the names, they took their seminal works, and then like sort of like reimagined them as powers, which is interesting.
Is that the word?
I think I do like how they've chosen to like interpret it, because then again I am a bit of a sucker of for people who take like existing characters of people and concepts and like tweak them.
This is like the lowest quality image I could find at the same time because I was trying to be quick, but god, it's such a good manga. Everyone should read Bungo Stray Dogs. I don't care if I sound horrible when I say it. I know what I'm talking about. It's good.
Yeah.
Speaking of webcomics, I just finally, after like 6 to 8 months of working on it with my boy Jay, we finally got our comic out. And we had like the best opening week of anyone's fucking lives. Do you know what's happened this opening week? It's crazy. So we get put on the front page as soon as we upload. Like literally the day after we upload, we're put on front page, right? And then after that, Snail Lloyds gives us a shout out, right? on his Instagram.
Dang.
Every time we post it, the only thing people say is, "This should be featured." And like we're having an amazing opening. And I'm so proud of Jay. I'm so proud of Jay. He stopped being depressed. Jay got a semi-rival.
You guys did the Paulson Brothers thing for a bit. I was like, is Jay gonna ever do anything else? And then
because Aerosol is the main comic. Paulson Brothers was for fun, and we're still gonna try and get it done. But just after we're done,
sorry,
they're robbing Kaz, everyone. The only thing I've been waiting for this whole time. If they rob her, maybe she'll be too sad, and then I can still carry. I can finally be with the man I love.
Oh, get a room, man. Get a room. Speaking of which, right? I'm really sorry. I have no way to mute that stuff because like it's coming across the street, and clearly someone. Yeah. Well, all the dogs have come like this. Guns are kind of like. No, this is not America.
This is America.
Also, who's the semi-rival? I want
to know who his semi-rival is. Some random. But is this like rival, like when a really bad anime character just like yells at random person's like, "You're my rival now," even though they don't fucking know each other? Is that it? Because if that's it, that's sad. That's really sad.
Oh goodness.
I have 2 undercover Tapas accounts that don't have my name on them, but they're undercover because I say random shit on them and no one will ever find them. I mean,
well, why is the comic not on Tapas, by the way? Like,
because we wanted to put it on Tapas, then Jay was just like, "Fuck that shit," and I was just like, "Honestly, you're not wrong. We can do it in like a week. It's fine." We forgot.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the the topics on the Tapas forums.
Oh, you're looking
Like,
through Tapas? Okay, while you do
yeah, I
that and you
actually
try and
am.
find the person, I'm just gonna give everyone a quick introduction of what we're talking about. Is that cool?
Yeah, I mean, why don't you plug your comic? Because congratulations on
Oh,
to
thank
you and
you.
Jay for
I
getting it
never
up.
I never plug anything. It's like my one crime. I plug nothing. I live in unpluggable situation. This is like my second webtoon ever that I
Yeah.
actually like have put out properly and is not still in production. Anyway, uh hi everyone, what's good? How are you? How are your families? I hope your children are okay. If you have any, if you don't, I know you have cats. They're probably your children. Anyway, today's episode is talking about representation and webcomics. Ignore the back screen. I messed it up and I can't be bothered to fix it. Um, representation in webcomics and in traditional comics. I will mostly be taking it from the Western point of view. We'll have a little bit of Cass telling me about how she basically doesn't experience any of that because Asia is very different. But more or less, it'll be a lot of like talking about Marvel and Marvel and DC and Image and their shift in terms of representation and why it
Ooh.
matters. Then we'll be talking a little bit about webcomics and how representation has seemed to work there. It can't be comprehensive when it comes to webcomics or even to Marvel because let's be quite honest, there's a lot going on all the time. They're huge, sprawling, and there are lots of different rational actors taking part. So bear with. This is for us is like a little bit of a revival because we're trying to have a lot more focus in our streamed content where we actually talk about stuff. We have a concept lined up for next week as well. So look forward to that. All right, cool. Representation. So, Kaz, what do you think
Yes.
representation is in comics?
Well, I mean, I think it's just to give a bit of an overview, right?
Yeah.
I think when these days the discourse when we talk about representation, it's like, oh, do I have characters, people like who I can relate to in terms of like um either like physical and cultural background who I see in comics because comics or media because yeah, I mean, I can understand like well, quote unquote the minorities out there that there's a total dearth of them.
Yeah.
I mean, at first glance, where the big mainstream titles are concerned. Although that has changed, however, like the execution is a little bit, but we will get onto that. So,
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. Execution for a lot of representation has been shit. That's the
and
word.
we're gonna discuss why that is. By the way,
Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure we are going to discuss like why the whole like attempts at representation, as you will, have
Yeah.
pretty much gone hit and miss, and a wide reception to it hasn't been as good, even though it's
Uh,
supposedly okay and stuff.
I ended up down this really bad rabbit hole while trying to read about why people haven't been a fan of a lot of representation. And there's like a rabbit hole where if I get to the end of it, I'm gonna probably say something mean about some people, but I mean it. I mean every word of what I'm gonna say if I say it, and I hope they get hurt.
Ooh, ooh.
I love
I
who
think
I
this
am.
is. I think this is one of the more one of the more like controversial topics that we've
Yeah,
decided to cover since the Hubcast has been a thing. Although we're almost 2 years old. Oh my god.
yeah. 2 years old. We're so old now. We can almost drink. Um,
Well, I mean, for a time, Nen was the bigger drinker out of us too. So,
how dare you? Anyway,
yeah.
um, so in terms of Western comics, in my experience growing up, representation has always been weird. Like I didn't start reading like most people here probably don't know. I didn't grow up in the UK. I grew up in Africa, in specifically in Nigeria. So when I got
And always blessing the rains down there.
always blessing
Yay!
those rains, and every time I got a comic, so like when you if you grow up in an African country and you get your comics and you're rich enough to buy comics, which luckily at some point, I mean I say rich enough, you're lucky enough to live in a place that gets them. Basically you get comics in the situation where you get all the damaged copies and old copies of comics. So let's say you were reading, yeah.
Oh.
So like if you were reading like Amazing Spider-Man, like the version 2, right? When it came out, I wouldn't have known it was out when it came out if I still lived there at the time. I was still reading. I had the original. I have most of the original Amazing Spider-Man comics, like in my house. And I've read all of them. I read the original Spawn stuff. Like I've read a lot of originals, a lot of old stuff with lots of misprints. There's a Spawn comic I have that's about lynching, and in that comic, the scene with lynching got printed wrong. So like the thing that's supposed to be dramatic and like serious is like just a mess of colors, and you can't read it. I had to Google it when I was like 16. It took me years to get to the point where I could actually Google it and find out what that was supposed to be. Anyway.
I mean, this is the antithesis of first world problem,
Yeah, I know. Because we didn't have...
I am so sorry.
We didn't get modems. Like, we didn't get internet. Representation of the
representations.
Honestly, I'm going to be... Oh, hey, Basilisk, by the way. No, we should also say hi. Hi is a mutual. Welcome, buddy.
Hey.
Honestly,
this is going to be difficult.
Yeah,
this is going to be difficult because I don't. For one, right, neither of us have enough experience with comics that address this to speak about it as confidently. Whether it's from like our own like personal experience or like experience with media depicting this sort of thing. So we might touch on it if some of the material we do have like covers it, and we might like discuss the what we do know, but don't expect us to go as in depth with this as
you might probably want.
LGBTQIA plus.
How dare you? It's LGBTQQ2IAAP. All right, get with the program.
Oh no, Ned, please.
LGBTQQIA2SP. No, 2SP.
Can you stop?
I'm Googling it now. I used to know it. I used to know the whole thing.
Ned, these are quote unquote your people.
Yeah, I know, but I don't always know the whole... The acronym is fucking long, okay? Like, I need you to cut me some slack here.
Yeah, but only because like most of the discourse about quote unquote representation stems around this. That's why the discussion today on the episode will frame like mostly on this.
Okay.
At a later date, we could consider talking about representation of autism spectrum disorders. Mental health actually is another thing that we could
talk about. I mean, a lot of the things we're going to say will apply in a very broad way, but I see what you mean about specifics. Also, the quote is LGBTQQ2IAAP. Take that.
Why the double Qs?
Okay, so the Q, so it's queer questioning, intersex, two-spirit, which is a Native American thing, allies, asexual, and pansexual.
Okay, because when I see QQ, all I see in my head is
the Chinese website. Yeah.
No, the crying smiley face. I don't use QQ because I didn't grow up in the mainland, and
okay.
I'm of a less like quote unquote super Chinese.
I told you I went to like a mainland mostly school, didn't I? Like 80% Chinese. 1,000.
You didn't tell me about the You didn't tell me about the mainland mostly school.
It was mainland
mostly. You did
mostly.
say that. Wow, in the UK?
Yeah,
mostly
in the middle of the fucking countryside.
Which county was this?
Shrewsbury. In
Shrewsbury. Shropshire. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, absolute bonkers.
It's 1,000+ students, and 800 of them are all Chinese, and mainland Chinese. Like 150 are
my school was smaller than yours, but it was all mostly like white British and like the Chinese from Hong Kong, some mainland Chinese, a couple of Malaysians. So it was a handful of us only.
When we got a Vietnamese kid, everyone made a big deal out of it. When we got a second Taiwanese kid, all the Chinese kids made fun of him. That was very weird.
But we definitely digress though. So you grew up with you grew up with janky
janky old versions of comic, but also like I grew up in an environment that was very similar to America. So it wasn't hard for like a lot of the subtext to be lost on me. And I only realized that it was subtext today because quite honestly, to me, a lot of comic book text is very obvious. Like the thing I said at the beginning with Batman being a bad guy, I'm confused as to why it took me so long to get it. But also like when I was reading a lot of comics, a lot of what people would call political ideas, right, was super obvious to me.
In what sense?
Okay, like an example would be the fact that the Amazing Spider-Man writers have like a problem with technology, and they fear technology gone awry to the point where three of Spider-Man's main villains are all technology based. Dr. Octopus, the Vulture, I'm trying to remember the Lizard. They're all the product of science gone amok.
Green Goblin, you mean?
Yeah, Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and the Lizard. They're all a sign of science got run amok. Crazy scientists. They feared the movement forward without any of people without any like hesitation. For me, that's super obvious. But according to one of my friends today, I'm like overestimating people's intelligence, which I don't think I am. But whatever. I got yelled at for that because I said super easy to get. But what do I know?
Yeah.
I'm just a guy with a book. But anyway, because of that, like representation in general has always been something that was also very obvious. Especially like if since I read a lot of comics that were out in the 70s, like Luke Cage. Luke Cage. Oh God. Oh God. Like Luke Cage and a lot of comics that were out in the 70s where they would try to incorporate minorities, especially black people, into their comics. It was weird.
See, all of it. See, here's the thing, right? The majority of these like comics, the ones that are as pervasive as they are, because they come from the big two, plus maybe a few. I mean, not so big few. They all tend to be written by people. I mean, people who've lived like a certain kind of life in a certain kind of era.
Yeah, I don't.
Which
yeah, it felt very obvious that the people who wrote this were like, I felt like they genuinely wanted to write something good. At least I hoped they did. But then it came off very shit.
One thing that makes me curious, right? So you grew up reading like janky Marvel, janky DC, and all that because of the copies damage. Did your country not have like much in the way of local writers? Things like the small like the print comics like Beano, like sort of like Archie's Digest and stuff?
Nah, dude, like if you got an Archie's Digest used to cost so much fucking money. All right, this is like a flashback to when I was like 9. No, when I was like 7. All right, so back then, right? This is how comics essentially cost. I'm converting everything to pounds at the time, right? So if you wanted to buy a Marvel comic back then, it would have been like 3-4 quid, right? Overall, if you converted it, which isn't crazy. But if you wanted to buy like an Archie's comic, it was like $15.
Oh wait, like these were like the thicker stacks, right?
No,
or
the
like
thin fucking the fucking like with the Game Boy ads in the back and shit. Thin comics, the thin page comics. If you wanted to read an Archie, like a thin Archie comic, £15 you would pay at the time. For some reason, Archie comics were the only one who were officially sending their comics to Nigeria, but they were fucking expensive. I've sworn like 6 times today, and I've already given Carrie the 15, so I'm now back to owing like £2. Shit, I need to make that.
And that's another 10. That's another 20p.
Damn it. Yeah.
Comics. I mean, the topic about like local comic stores like LCSs. We'll touch on that like later on. But the thing is, right, in Western Europe, a different kind of a different kind of like market exists. Like
I will say, the UK doesn't count as Western Europe.
Asterix is fun.
Oh, that was
Asterix is fun.
I bought one Asterix my whole life. It was so expensive.
as well, but so here's the thing though, right? I think this is where I can like cover my own like background, growing up. So I'll sort of like stop to like where just before I like left for the UK. So I have had the privilege of I grew up in Malaysia, but I didn't grow up in like say a super quote unquote like extremely conservative Asian background. And I was lucky enough to be I went over to the UK to do high school, and by the time I landed in the UK, like I'd already been lucky enough to be exposed to a lot of different things culturally. So growing up, right, when I was I didn't read as many comics as like a lot of other kids growing up, but they were almost, I mean, the stuff I did read, first off, it was like, the educational things, like, you read all those like magazines, like, science and maths for kids, and then they explain things in comic format. So if those technically count, and then we had like this comic from, I mean, this Chinese comic called Oh Master Q. Anyone who speaks Mandarin, you know it as Lao Fu Zi. I grew up with that because like a lot of it was mostly gag, so I didn't have to like be able to read like any text per se.
Yeah.
Then I think you should Google Oh Master Q, because that thing is ancient.
I feel attacked when you say all these words because they're terrifying. Oh, Master Q.
Yes, so I grew up with that. And then like slowly, like, I mean, in elementary school, elementary school, but here we call it primary school. You sort of like around the age of 11, 12 is when you finish your education there. And the kids would mostly be reading translated translated Japanese manga, which was, I mean, it was translated to Mandarin Chinese. It was also translated to Malay, Bahasa, which is
doesn't matter what country you're in, kids. There's always going to be a weeb in your class. You can't escape.
But here's the thing. This was before the time of like we didn't have the concept of like weeb, LGBTQs and stuff. Like we just knew, but Marvel and DC, basically the big two, and the like of those kind of superhero, the comics themselves didn't really feature that prominently in my childhood. The shows, yes, probably they did, because they had like animated cartoons and stuff. So I did remember like the X-Men series from when I was younger. And I later on when my tweens and teens, I definitely enjoyed Teen Titans. The first one, not Teen Titans Go.
I know.
Yeah, but my exposure to classic superhero Western comics plus let's say like no way like quote unquote like proper like Japanese like manga and almost like a turn weeb sense wasn't until I hit my tweens or teens. My mom, she grew up reading Archie's Digest, and later on, like, I got the chance to like, read some Tintin books. My brother was more into Asterix. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Tintin
I was a lot. I mean, for us though, come on now. For us though, right? Books. I mean, the stuff that came from the West and the West was definitely tended to be a little bit more expensive. So.
Oh yeah.
Compared to translated volumes of Conan, Detective Conan, which were still relatively cheap. Like you could have them for well, let me just think. If you wanted to buy translated Detective Conan in Mandarin or Bahasa, it was significantly cheaper than reading it in English somehow.
Really?
But yes, absolutely. Now, right? I've actually, it's still the same case here in Malaysia. If I wanted to buy like a volume of a translated manga, which is it like not Japanese, I'd be paying a lot more to get it in English because the licensors and stuff, versus Mandarin Chinese.
That's genuinely strange.
Well, it's the market being weird, but we're digressing at this point. But I think, right, a lot of people growing up in Malaysia, they would have significantly more skewed experiences to where, depending on your background, where the Asian like media was concerned. So the translated Japanese manga, but not the stuff that is like super. I mean, I wouldn't call them super weeby because these like were titles that were just getting like were kind of like internationally more known. Nowadays you can like find the sleeper hits because the internet. But you're talking about things that were really big name like Shonen Jump hits, like obviously Yu Yu Hakusho. But then not so much Shonen Jump, like Sailor Moon as well. Doraemon. You'd read Doraemon in Mandarin Chinese or Bahasa.
Doraemon was where it was at.
Yes.
Question: how long did it take you to get it? Like the Shonen Jump monthly?
We never got the monthlies.
Okay. We only got the
We
monthlies, and they took 3 months to arrive.
and you get the English versions of the
Yeah.
monthly, so the Japanese. See, we only started getting Shonen Jump like monthly or weekly like collections. Sorry. At first they were sold like in slightly more upmarket bookstores because they're exotic Japanese, even though they were printed on cheap ass newsprint.
Oh God, you're so right. Oh, did you ever have that thing when you were a kid when you'd read like Japanese manga for the first time and you'd get sick? Like you'd get like physically ill because you had to go the wrong way when reading the book? That for me was
Not
a problem.
really.
That was a big problem for me
Not
growing up.
not really, because like when I was growing up, I'd see my cousins read like right to left or this sort of thing. Also, I speak and read and write Chinese.
Oh yeah, you're
What do
a
you think?
weeb. You're a weeb. You're a super weeb. I almost forgot.
Excuse me?
I just called you a super weeb in front of everyone. Ooh.
God damn.
Anyway, what are we, children?
But yeah, so yeah, clearly. I mean, it's the end of the year. We're all tuckered out and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely a very different experience. Like I didn't have to like wait to read like janky like run colored prints because I never really got into those. Like I'm ashamed to admit that the only time I really like clapped eyes on Marvel comics, apart from the Amazing Spider-Man strip in the newspapers, that's different.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, like the newspaper comic strips. I love newspaper comic strips. That's fine. When I actually cut eyes on like those like periodicals, that was when I was late teens actually. I never
sad.
really read like those. I mean, that's only because we started having shit like the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I mean, I'm just sad that you experienced some of the greatest things ever created and put to paper at such a late time. When, I mean, I'm just saying, like, look, listen, Amazing Spider-Man is amazing. Like, it's in the title. Everyone should read it from birth.
I watched the TV show.
Okay, fair enough. You're forgiven.
Always
forgiven.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Speaking about Amazing Spider-Man and also getting us back to representation, it was the first time I'd actually seen it. So I told you I own from like maybe the 30th issue up until like the 200th something issue of Amazing Spider-Man, like as a comic book at home, right? Issue number 99. Yeah, I can quote issues. I'm sad. Issue number 99, I think.
You're gonna have to like tell me and the audience like what goes on in these things, because like when you say numbers, it doesn't mean anything.
I'm just gonna make sure. I'm gonna make sure. Issue number 99 of Amazing Spider-Man is I'm zoomed into the screen. Issue number 99 of Amazing Spider-Man is the one about the prisons. So what happens in this chapter is there's a prison riot. And this was the first time, because I read 99 before from 90 down for some reason, because I bought the wrong issue. But 99 talks about prison riots, and this is when my first time of seeing a black person in comics happened. By the way, so all of the prisoners, like half of them are black, half of them are white. It's not that bad. It's actually a really good comic, but like it very clearly is about like prisoners' rights and representation of, because they're still people, even though they've committed crimes, they deserve to be treated right. And then the prisoners take over a prison, and then Spider-Man like bursts in, and then like he's just chill. He walks in and he's like, you know what? You guys have a point, but you can't be doing this stuff out here. People are people too. You need to think about that. But I get it. I'll talk to the warden, and it's genuinely amazing. The one that really got me though was so from 96 to 98. This is a 70s comic, by the way. So from 96 to 98, they had an entire arc about drugs. And it was mostly just about like poor black kids doing drugs. That was it. That's like almost the entire thing. It's just poor black kids doing tons of drugs and moving drugs and selling drugs. And I was like, why? Like, I didn't know it came out in the 70s. For me, this was like an issue that came out now, So I wasn't like aware at the time that it was old and it's dated. But while reading it, I would be like, why the fuck are all the black people just bad? Like, what the fuck? And then it
Wow.
didn't help when I finally bought Luke Cage, and he was supposed to be the good guy who was black, and he was like shit and a caricature of a human being, and he had an afro for no reason. I hate afros. As someone who just doesn't like afros, it was very weird to me. Um, like representation in comics for me has always been weird. It's a lot of bad representation, and I don't think it came from a bad place. Mostly, I think it's a bunch of really
It came
nice
from
people.
it came from an ignorant place, and
Yeah.
by the way, the word ignorant doesn't mean that you're I mean, despite the word like the
Yeah.
presence of like part of the word ignore, it doesn't mean that you actively like choose not to like care or stuff.
Yeah.
Ignorance is just like you're just not aware of these sorts of things. And to be honest, I don't blame a lot of people because they didn't grow up with the kind of like cultural exposure
Yeah,
to other kids.
it changed very rapidly, I will admit. And like it's nowadays I would say like representation in comics is good, you know?
Oh, it's better. It's better.
I don't even think the word good is okay. But better is the word. Um
And that's probably because, right? There are just so many like different variants of like these quote
mm,
unquote token characters out there. Like your like I mean people who say that Miles' experience of being a black kid is black like Hispanic kid, was it? I
yeah,
can't
he's
remember
he's
because
half black, half Hispanic.
yeah,
I remember that
that
shit.
is like not congruent to what they experience like
Yeah,
in
there's
their locale,
yeah.
their
I had a
their
full on
families.
argument about
Like
this with I had a full on argument about this with my
who?
my little my boy toy Jay and one of our friends Shama earlier, and
Oh,
I
okay.
posited the argument, like it wasn't like it was just like a conversation, but I posited the argument that like while representation now is better, the only time people seem to like a minority character being added in a comic is when the character is just like an echo of the storyline that they had before. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying these people are racist. Most people don't like changes to their comics. Like, look, personally, right? I wasn't very happy about the fact that what you call it. I wasn't very happy with the fact that like Ben Riley became a thing at one point in the Amazing Spider-Man series. Ben Riley's a clone of Peter, and there was a time when he got his own spin-off comic and shit. I wasn't very happy he was there, you know. But like,
How come?
I just didn't like him because he was different. He's not even, by the way, he's a clone, but he's just different in name only. And I didn't like him. That was all it took.
Mm.
Like, so for a lot of people, like a lot of changes to their comic characters can be very, brain breaking. You know, like how like a lot of people react badly to things like how Miss Marvel is now Muslim, or like Thor is now a woman, or the new Iron Man is Iron Woman. I think it's Iron Woman or Iron. She's a woman now.
Oh god, you know what I was told like
What?
around the time that happened? Like someone actually had the gall to tell me, "Hey, Iron Man is a superhero, but Iron Woman is a command." And I was like, "Oh no, you shouldn't."
Such a that scream is for everyone who just had like an internal cringe. I love you all. Um,
Yes. Yes, that was horrendous. Okay, so let's just read some of the comments right now. Diversity in products is difficult to deal with if a property has a pre-established structure. The change in that structure makes people uncomfortable by nature. That is why we have like
yeah,
new but so familiar to try and ease people into it.
yeah.
But
And then,
purists are still going to like hate the shit out of it.
and then Jenny says it's definitely gotten better. Honestly, I think the problem sometimes stems from people trying to give all of the examples of everyone, and it's like, well, you can't always represent everyone, but at the same time, you need to have more diversity in comics. Like sometimes I want to see more cultural backgrounds, more experiences, kind of like mine, and that doesn't always have to always need to be a message. Yeah, like
Very good, yeah.
I was saying a lot about like Miles. Miles is a good character. I like Miles. He's nice. You know, I
He's
would let him
fun.
date. I would let him date my nephew. You know, he's a nice kid, but like he's just Peter Parker, but Mexican black. Like there's no scene in Amazing Spider in Ultimate Spider-Man where Miles Morales literally walks into a room and just says "Hola cabron" and like speaks Spanish for like solid minute.
Does it
He has a
do
Mexican
you
black
feel like
background.
do you feel like there's not enough that taps into his background? It's just like
Yeah,
different skin, different setting, and different like
it's literally like there's almost no difference between Miles Morales and Peter Parker. The only difference, in fact, no, yeah, there's no difference because he's basically early Peter Parker, but written more convincingly and less garbage. Because, like, writing and comic making has progressed as a medium. So he's not like the original Peter Parker from the first comics. He's just Peter Parker. He's as poor as Peter Parker. He's just Peter Parker but black.
Whenever I create a new character, I try to always make personalities first, and I'm never quite sure if that's the right way to go. There doesn't matter as long as every character has a purpose to serve the storyline. Because if you've got like a character whose role in your story can be replaced by another person's, or doesn't serve any real role, then don't have that character.
Yeah. Talking about Earth 616 Miles, I vaguely remember him. I want you to understand. I know he's the one with like the robot suit now and like crap. I think he's called Ultimatum or something. I haven't really read. He was part of a crime family. It was a whole thing. I haven't read more about him since then. That's all I remember. Yeah, that's Earth 1610. That's the one I know. That's the one I care about.
By the way, this is your domain because I don't religiously follow Marvel and DC issues.
No, that's fine. I stopped doing that a little while ago when I realized the fact that like those companies are shit. But
I think we should actually touch on why this seems to be a pattern. And sadly, I do have to admit it's because of the people who are being hired for these sorts of things.
It's complicated. I mean, I wouldn't say it's complicated because I know Marvel and DC hire multiple groups of people to write. Bless thou. Hire multiple groups of people to write their comics. And the thing is, the diversity you have in your staff will determine how effective your diversity is being used in your work. Like our staff, for example, our podcast staff is like 4 women, 1 guy. Everyone is not white except one person who's sort of white. And that gives us a lot of perspective into things.
Who's that?
Ink. That's it.
Who's sort of white?
Sort of white. Ink. She's Mexican, but she's also white. That's it.
Oh, I see.
Like she's just very, very pale. And like she's just like at this point I've accepted being white. But like, in our group, that's a lot of people who like it helps put checks and balances on the things that we say, the way that we approach topics. It's the reason why like we don't make crude jokes on this show. This, is the reason.
I mean, we do, like but only just privately.
Garbage, yeah, but like not crude garbage jokes and use them to represent what we believe in. Like, you know what I mean? Like I believe there's a big difference between jokes you make among people you know and jokes you make outside. And I don't just come out and I go, ha, did you see that woman who writes? Ha, yeah. Real crazy, right? Like that is something that I feel like I would make a joke about now, but I shouldn't. But like
I don't just want to JK Rowling it. So I'm just sorry. I'm just looking at the comments right now.
I do try to allude to it in the story itself without saying it outright. I've written pieces of representation. Yeah.
Well, I think JK Rowling and her issues. This is it's sort of the same, but not quite. I guess it's major retcon. She's got the ability to like majorly like retcon it like say, with Word of God, with Pottermore and the like. And she also comes from a time where this sort of thing isn't really as widely.
I mean, I understand why people don't like J.K. Rowling. Then it's also the reason why a lot of people who are progressive don't like Marvel's thing of representation because it feels bullshit. It's basically it's race. Yeah. It's like gay baiting but with race. It's the same. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Sorry, do I think that there are actually genuine people out there who say stop shoving like the representation thing down our throats because they truly are like racist and like
yes.
discriminatory? Yes, there are. Do I still think that representation is being done in a kind of way by the big few? Oh, absolutely.
Oh, fucking yeah.
Absolutely. Jenny's like covered it saying like, give me something more to Miles. Like, why make him black Mexican if you're not going to explore it? It doesn't need to be big message, just more to explore.
It doesn't need to be a lot. Just his mother calling him like mi amor or something every time she sends him out. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff.
that's a breadcrumb. I mean, as it is, but
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like for a comic, that characterizes his mother as she is Mexican. This is his culture. He does come from this. You know, have him meet someone and have a mutual understanding over the fact that like they both share a fear of their mother throwing a slipper across the room to hit them in the face. Like, you know, yeah, everyone's afraid of the chancla, bro. Like, you think it's a joke? It's fucking multicultural, dude. Like, I'm a grown ass man. I teach high school. My mother could show up in this house, and I would live in fear of the chancla. It's not a joke. Like,
do you guys in
yes,
like Nigeria use
yes,
slippers?
Slippers. So many slippers have been thrown at me. I deserved it every single time,
like,
but still.
Well, that's right. It's a plethora of things. Like you have like feather dusters. You've got like canes. You've got you've got what else have you got? Oh God, clothes hangers. Yeah.
Or like the age old minority tradition, ethnic tradition of your mother talking about how you're amazing to everyone she knows, and then she sees you and says, "Why aren't you a doctor yet?" Like, like
oh no. So Mary, yeah, I will text you the translation for it so that you can have that, okay? But yeah.
That was such a weird message. You could have DM'd you this. Hi, Mary. You okay, buddy?
He's all right. He's all right, I'm sure.
Oh my god.
But yeah, my goodness though. Like, I mean, I thought like, you know, hey, it's pretty damn cool that you know, we've got Miles, and I liked I liked Spider-Verse. I liked the movie Spider-Verse. It was a fun movie. I enjoyed it because of the medium, like, you know, being
but Spider-Verse really shows you how little they do with Miles in the comic, because like you watch the Spider-Verse movies and they have what's the name of the Japanese version of Peter Parker?
Penny Parker.
Yeah, Penny Parker, but they have her show up and she speaks Japanese like a lot. Like she's a weeb. And she owns it, and it's great, and it's adorable. But it's like it characterizes her as she is the culture she says she's from. She's not just posing as that. It's not just Peter Parker, but now a tiny girl, you know.
Penny Parker like was changed quite a bit from the comic version, and I think it's interesting that I've been meaning to like read like the original comic Spider-Verse comic that she is from, because clearly they've done quite a fair bit of design changes both to the spider suit and to Penny's visual looks, but so I mean, whether that so that's the only time after I read that I can actually say like, do I like what they've done with the change or not. Like, for now though, I just enjoy her as is.
I personally really like the character, but to be fair, I want it to be understood that I'm just a big weeaboo boy, so does it really matter what I think? No.
Yeah, so here's the thing though, like, because there are like common threads and like the experiences of people from like different cultural groups, obviously, but at the same time you can't say like that one like for attempt at representation is indicative of like every person's experience of that culture, because
and I get that, but I think that from a personal perspective, it's like, even if you see a slice from a very, very specific niche, you kind of go, oh, that's that group, that's that version of this, that's pretty cool, that's cool, I like that, maybe I should make my own. It gives the person who's reading it the inspiration that there is space for you in this medium. You're not an extra.
Just visually, the fact that they're more front and center as opposed to like a side character, that helps. But I don't know if it's enough yet. And it's good that people are demanding more and demanding better.
Yeah.
Do I think that they're racist people and like people out there were like, oh yeah,
don't
just
spoil
stop
it already.
There's
a whole thing I want to tell you about later, literally about people like that who believe weird things about the comic industry and haven't accepted the fact that the industry has just moved forward without them, and they want to make a big deal out of it.
Are we talking about Comicsgate? No, right?
Maybe.
Are we talking something about Comicsgate?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, this is I have not haven't delved into this really like Like
comics.
I'm kind of glad that our audience is relatively small because
I'm kind
you
of
know
glad that our
I
audience is relatively nice people who aren't immediately going to say something very, very weird if I talk about it. So if you don't want me to talk about it, I won't.
yeah. I found a good use for representation sharing how I experience the world, how I respond to things like crowds or immense amounts of sound. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, but I think just as you, it helps get like more info out there. At the same time, it's important for both the creator and also like the consumer to realize that this is only just one. Like, it doesn't necessarily invalidate them, but it should be taken as part of like a wider like pool of media on the same like topics and stuff.
Something that I think really tries its best is representation of people with or just people really that are different from what you would what we for some reason consider the norm is Japanese manga. A Silent Voice or Koe no Katachi.
Yeah.
Koe no Katachi, A Silent Voice is really, really good in. Well, I'm not hunting the moose. The glory. Okay, it's really good. Koe no Katachi is really good. Is really good at its representation of deaf people. In Japanese culture, for some reason, that's something that they stigmatize. So it was very interesting to read a
Black.
manga made by someone talking about their like an experience of being like bullying and then becoming friends with someone who was deaf, which is for me is a big deal. Stuff like that needs to be done more about just different kinds of people because like I personally find comics especially because like movies and TV shows, right? You watch them on a screen, you can easily forget them, you can easily disconnect because it's on something else. But when you read a comic, you're taking your active time to concentrate on this thing. You know, it's quite hard to like zone out from a comic. You've chosen to pick it up and read it. If you're zoning out, you're just wasting your own time, you know? So,
There are people who zone out from it, but that's a whole other like
yeah, that's a
disorder
whole.
that we aren't going to discuss
I'm just saying, like,
this time.
personally, for me, if I find it as a thing I do it because I want to. I don't do it because of a whim. So, like, if I'm reading a comic because I want to, right? I end up in a situation where, like, I really focus in on the characters. I really focusing on the world. I'm reading for details and plot points and stuff. And like when there's a comic about trying to understand a group of people that I have never tried to understand or seen from a perspective, it really changes how I approach things. Like reading Dr. Frost really changed how I approached how what people thought of pop psychology, you know? Dr. Frost really does a good job of breaking down like pop psychology. Reading Koi no Katachi really changed how I approach the idea of how how other communities handled their disabled and not even disabled. They're not equally abled people.
Some
Like
groups wanted to ban Koe no Katachi because they claimed it. Yeah. See here. So here's the thing, right? You know, there is media that would challenge like your
yeah,
previously held conceptions and stuff, and it is going to make you uncomfortable. But it's only through that you actually learn how
you
to grow
grow
and
and you
stuff.
yeah. I think it's good to be. I mean, it's not the best way to say it. I'm not saying like don't do weird things to people on the train, but I think it's good to be made uncomfortable by media that you consume because it makes you ask questions, and maybe the answer to those questions is I was right the whole time. Maybe. So most of the time it's not, by the way. But maybe the answer is I was right the whole time. While reading up for this for this episode, I asked myself a lot of questions. I asked myself a lot of questions like, why are my preconceptions what I believe they are? Why have I thought that, for the longest time that we need representation? I had to think about all of those things before I even got to this episode. I'm like, and yeah, I mean, at the end point, every answer I gave was just me affirming myself and telling myself, you were right. But there were some times when I thought, you know what, the people who are worried about representation coming to destroy their industry or whatever, they're coming from a place where they have a problem that isn't solvable the way it's insolvable and they're going to blame something for it. And I'm not saying that I don't think they're bad people, basically. I just think they're people who have made the wrong, at least most of them, I think they're people who've chosen the wrong target for their anger. That's it. And that's what I got from all this. And I think that's what a lot of things that make you uncomfortable help you do. They help you realize that you should ask these questions and they will be weird and uncomfortable and they will make you question whether or not, like, anyone cares about you, or that whether or not you should think the way you think, and that's okay. It's perfectly fine to do that. Don't be afraid to do that, because if you're afraid to do that, I'm sorry, friend, the world's gonna leave you behind, and you're not gonna like it.
I mean, you could try and like live a hermit life if you don't really care about the world leaving you behind. But if you are a creator as well, you gotta the story like create. I mean, stories like these do not exist in a vacuum. And this is where we were talking earlier about like the more diverse your stuff is, the more likely you are to get like a better picture of things in the content you put out.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about like the gatekeepiness of the hiring managers and editors in these sorts of spheres,
right.
because
You're so
which
right.
is why webcomics has been helpful, because in the same way that publishing circles are quite gatekeepy for like say things like novels and the like, the internet has made it both like a pro and a con for the underdogs to get their work out there. And I will always advocate for like getting the underdog like better channels and access. But I will still advocate for like quality. I mean, I know like everyone and their dog can like post a story or like a comic nowadays, and like a lot of it is still kind of drivel. I'm really sorry.
No, but you're not wrong. I think this is the thing, right? So while researching all the Comicsgate stuff, one of the things that did change my mind was hiring policies. I looked into hiring policies in Marvel, what people thought they were, what some of them actually were at some point, and like just the kind of people they've hired as well. And it's weird. Like, so a lot of the people who joined that movement, the movement that we shall not name until we need to name it, which I've already named twice. A lot of people who joined the Comic Day movement had problems with the hiring policies, because they were like, they just hire people based on clout. They don't care about good stories anymore. They only care about what sells. Which, I mean, there's a whole argument to be made there, which still ends up with the people which still ends up with me being right. But the main thing I noticed there was like, they were right. It's not okay. It's not okay that Marvel will hire people based on the fact that they just because they're doing well on social media. They don't check for writing qualifications, they don't check for creative ability. But I will also admit, amidst those people that Marvel hired, a lot of them were very, very good and creative people. Like they were hiring a lot of people just for popularity. But out of those people, there were several of them who were like creative individuals. One of them worked on the Mockingbird re-release that only lasted like eight issues. It's the one where, I think you've probably seen this before, but it's the one that has the cover that goes, talk to me about my feminist agenda.
Oh, God.
That's what episode
yeah. Let's look at some of the comments right now. So Mary says that if he hears a story is sad, like he refuses to read it and you refuse to be uncomfortable. I mean, and that's okay if it's at your personal choice. But these things still can and do have a right to exist for the people who want them. Yeah. So and they have a purpose too. And it's Victor Frankenstein tried to create an isolation. Look what happened. Oh, that was
that's deep. Look at you.
That's
there.
deep.
I read Mary Shelley. Okay.
Hey. If you learn from it, that's fine. Yeah. I should know that I don't write webcomics. Can draw a bit, but I'm not experienced enough to do comics. Oh yeah, comics are art and steroids. In one of the forms of art and steroids. I write short stories and I've been working on a book. Okay, yeah, I mean that's a good way to like get your writing chops out there. If you want to do comics, so I do suggest like looking at some screenwriting resources instead of like because like there's a lot that comic script writing has in common with like screenwriting, so that's a good way to dip your toes in.
Also, it's a great thing to watch a lot of. Yeah, also watch a lot of behind the scenes movie stuff to understand how like why they use certain shots and for what reason, because it could really help you with how you frame stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the storyboarding process is pretty similar across like different types of media, whether it's on TV or not. Sketchy, you have to be able to draw Iron Man with your offhand. The thing is, though, Sketchy, you're that good. I'm probably like.
This is why I don't invite Sketchy to my. This is why I'm never going to invite Sketchy to my barbecue. He's just gonna come in and just take barbecue sauce and be drawing little Iron Man things on the burgers. Weirdo. I love you, Sketch.
Yeah, Sket's pretty damn good though. I mean, Trigger noticed him like quite a few times.
Trigger.
They paused like a talk in the middle of AX, like a panel talk, just to like show off like this like bunch of
Oh my
sketches he did as a
God,
gift.
Sketch. He's so
He
adorable.
pro.
Yeah.
He pro.
I know who Art Tilbert is. Is it Tilbert? Do I say it Thilbert or Tilbert?
Tilbert.
Thilbert.
My God, your TH sound, yeah.
Look, all right. I know who Art is though. Art made he's right. He made Ultimate Spidey and Ultimate X-Men. He also worked with The Adventures of Superman, X Factor, which was garbage.
Yeah, so
Fantastic
here's the thing
Four,
though, like
stuff like that.
it's a little bit less about like representation stuff, but it does give you like a bit of a glimpse into how shitty like workplaces can be, especially in the creative sphere where people claim that it's all about like unleashing your whatever like brain juice.
Yeah, it's a weird problem. Where,
it's a weird one.
It's a weird problem where like the people who have a problem with the industry and the people who have a problem with the industry for the wrong reasons like the people who have the problem with the industry for the wrong reasons are like they're like facing the direction of truth. Like they're looking directly at the face of like, oh, there is something wrong with the industry, but they refuse to look at the real problem, and they've just made up a shit problem so they can be terrible people. Like they're looking at a real problem and they're looking at it and they've not like processed it beyond. There is a problem with the comic industry, the traditional comic industry. There's lots of problems with the traditional comic industry. The problem, and I will stress this very much, is not diversity and representation. It just isn't. Sorry, buddy. Boo-hoo. I've got my teacher voice on now.
Patchy diversity representation, like ham-fisted attempts, yeah, probably, but not, oh my God, diversity is ruining our comics.
Yeah.
Not in the way you think. Not in the way you think. Not in the way you think. But this like has the potential to get into like this whole like, but why is that so? And then we have to get into like talking politics amongst like
not anymore. Like, people, yesterday was a whole thing. I'm not talking about politics for the rest of the year. I don't want to talk about direct politics anymore.
Yeah, but just as a reminder for people who say they hate politics, everything. Yeah, it's in everything. Like it influences like everything that you live and like experience. So, and the media you consume and stuff. So you best get educated, bruh.
Yeah. I will admit this to people. The only time something you experience is not political, if you ever experience anything that you thought that's not political, it's because it specifically aligns with your political opinions. And you just don't realize it because you're too busy being in your political opinions. I have that problem a lot. As somebody who is like very progressive, I experience a lot of progressive media and I'm like, this is basic shit. But then like I go out and talk to real people and then they're like, what the fuck do you mean? Are you insane? So be aware of the fact that your biases inform the things that you consider political and not political. Yes, it's political if you trip over a coffee table. Who made that coffee table? Was it made by tiny hands in Vietnam? Or was it made by a workman in the US? How dare you speak of coffee tables so flippantly? You bastard.
Let's talk about the coffee let's talk about the coffee that gets on the table as well.
Yes.
Like, was it like what did the workers get paid a fair price for that?
Exactly. Is that fair trade coffee? Huh? Is it real fair trade or fake fair trade? How dare you come into my establishment with your fake coffee grains?
And the environment, like as a result of manufacturing the coffee table, did they use processes that wrecked the whole like ecosystem and stuff?
Flip that coffee table. Take down the bourgeoisie. Seize the methods of production. Come on, we're proletariat. I need to stop. We're gonna start another uprising.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, we don't need to make everything like a contentious political discussion. That is true, and sometimes you just need to enjoy stuff that is. But politics is everywhere, and you cannot like experience life without it.
I'm sorry if I hit the microphone. Basilisk just fucking ended my soul. Oh God!
Tease her by the means of production.
I love this man. No, he literally just made I'm gonna text you this because I can't say this out loud. It hurts me.
Yeah, please text me that, and I will. Oh gosh, do I like? But yeah,
That one. It's that one.
okay.
When he said it on the bus, that's literally like the most perfect anti-reference I've ever seen.
Ah.
Yeah, that. But then this, and it's not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. That one.
Oh, look at that.
Oh
There's layers in a joke,
no.
guys. There are layers
Oh,
in
so
every
is this
joke.
is this like a, you know, those Joseph the Crow, like the archaic
Yeah.
rap kind of thing? Like
Yeah.
I mean, I see thou like traversing the village with the wench I cherish, and I speak disregard thee. Yes, you know what that reference is, right?
Yeah, look, all right. I'm hip. I'm down with the kids. Jokes are like onions. Jokes, look, everyone knows a joke is an ogre, all right? Let's move on.
Yeah, so I was like, I was a bit confused with that, but yeah,
We're
you
so
are
deep in the
absolutely right.
reference that like we've created a new
No,
language.
no, God. But yeah, I think let's move on. Okay, so far we've talked about, like, you know, based off like just in terms of like skin and like race and skin and like, you know, I need to touch on like the huge issue with where the current like editor-in-chief in Marvel. I think people might have heard of this. He has it was, I mean, revealed that he had posed as used the Japanese pseudonym, you know.
Yeah.
Right after he was hired, he admitted that he had written under like the name of Akira Yoshida, and he had previously denied it.
Okay,
And
what's wrong with that? I'm very confused.
um, so I mean, this was like, I mean, the news broke like about 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
Cebulski, as like, you know, white, pretty fat ass, like, you know, dude at the top of Marvel, said
Yeah.
that he wrote under this Japanese name, and the sting of the moment is not just from the fact that it was dishonest, but the people he's replacing, because I mean, around the time that he was introduced as the new editor-in-chief, this was shortly after the previous editor-in-chief, Axel Alonso and Brian Michael Bendis, who we all know as the person who created Miles Morales.
Mm-hmm.
They exited Marvel.
They maxited. They marveled.
They exited. They
Marvel
mixed it,
exited.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Alonso was the guy who oversaw the introduction of the Muslim Ms. Marvel, Amadeus Cho, who is the Asian like Hulk, Jane Foster as Thor, and obviously and he co-created Morales with Brian Michael Bendis. So that was the previous editor-in-chief before Cebulski came in.
Yeah.
Cebulski, the, like, you know, Japanese poser. Yeah, so they may not have been the best attempts at representation, but but there are many people who have said, like, you know, this sort of thing was the sort of stuff that inspired them. And it's just a bit painful, I guess, to
I
see
see what
that
you mean.
he's writing as a Japanese person when he isn't, and it's a really shitty way of, like, you know, shitty thing, like, to show like, and the industry is not doing its best to be more inclusive, and, like, you know, it's pretty much,
they could just hire a
it's
fucking Japanese writer, but they've instead decided to make some shit up.
yes, it's pretty much a ScarJo. Appropriation problem, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the sound.
But this, I mean,
everyone
it's tangentially related, but this is the sort of thing, like, because, like, to understand why, like, the representation is a bit like dicey here and there. I mean, like, some of it's for, like, you know, meaning well but just not educated reasons, and some of it's like just what the fuck reasons. The only good one is the Spider-Man manga version. I've not seen that.
I want to say this straight up. There is one really good Spider-Man manga out right now, which I think everyone should read. It's called Fake Red. It's very, 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 very good. It's officially licensed by Marvel. It's made by Osawa Yusuke. The artist is Osawa Yusuke, and the author is Osawa and some Marvel editors. It's really, really, really good, and it's just about a really tiny Japanese boy who becomes Spooderman for a while because he finds the costume lying around. And it's really good. I've pre-ordered the actual comic itself because I think I mean I might have gone on a shady website, but it should be the actual like volume when it's done. but I'm gonna love it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So wait, he basically it's because he won a Marvel Manga Awards competition some time back.
I think so, yeah. But like,
so-
all I know is when I read this, it's the best Spider-Man story I've read in ages. It's the first time Spider-Man isn't just a fucking copy-paste character. It's the first time there's something different going on. And like, I actually fear for people. And it takes advantage of all the elements of Spider-Man because it's well written and not shit. Stan Lee, why did you let that happen to Spider-Man under your watch, huh? I know you're dead, but you fucked up, buddy. Just
well, I mean, I mean, again, he wasn't. I don't think like he was like as exposed like at the time.
Yeah,
so.
I know. Just Spider-Man got really fucking boring at one point. Like I own them. I own so many of them, and I get to the point where I read Spider-Man sometimes, and I'm just like, the next page is gonna have this, this, and this. I turn the page over. Exactly what I said happens. So
I like See, I like the fact that, at first they pushed the envelope thinking, hey, the story, I mean, the origin story could have happened to anyone, not necessarily people who look and sound like us, who've lived like us.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you tell me what your opinion is on people trying to push diversity on creators? My personal example is a group of people pushing me to make a certain character gay when I personally felt that wasn't the right option.
I heard the word gay. This is right up my alley. Homosexuality.
This is your moment.
Comics. This is my moment. This is what I was born for, kids.
Yeah, so full disclosure, Ned is bi.
Yeah.
So
I mean, excuse me, I fuck pans. I'm pan.
Okay, you said bi at first.
I say bi because nobody ever understands what pan is, so I just gave up, and I just say I fuck pans instead.
I have a really, really bad image of you in like a kitchenware store.
Oh Jesus! I'm just.
I am so sorry. I am so sorry.
There is no walk that is safe from me.
I am so sorry. It was nice knowing you guys. Like, Webcomics Hub was totally shot.
Would you grab the kitchen by the means of production? Okay. That's so bad.
This is really awkward because everyone say that the classic thing about women's place being in the kitchen, but most top chefs are men.
Yeah. I wanted to say there were so many layers of subtext we're going into. We're almost ready to start speaking a new language. I'm ready for it. Anyway, I have a cast iron skillet. Sketchy, we need to talk about cast iron sometime, buddy. Anyway,
pushing diversity.
Okay, it's weird. So, as someone, okay, right now, I'm thinking what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a parallel on something I'm currently writing. So currently, I'm writing a comic called White Elephants. The main character is asexual for no real reason. I just chose him being asexual because I felt like he was that guy. I did have some of my friends tell me that, it's good, you're representing, but I didn't do it for representation reasons. I did it because the character just felt that way, And if you're someone who's comfortable with your characters being that, do represent them. If you understand what it's like to be like that, if you have friends like that, represent them in that way. If you don't have those, or maybe you don't feel comfortable doing those, or maybe you just don't think that character is that kind of guy or person or them, don't. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. But if you think you can and you think you can effectively do so, do so. If that's how you feel the character should be, do. And if people are forcing you to do it, maybe they should back the fuck up. Because quite honestly, maybe it's just me. My writing is very personal to who I am to who I am. Like, I wake up in the morning and I'm looking at my characters and I treat them like people. I think about where they go. Like, I was reading the main character of White Elephant yesterday, and he's gonna die, by the way. It's very obvious. But while I know he's gonna die, right? I was there thinking, what does this guy eat for breakfast? I feel like he feels like a Honey Nut Cheerios kind of guy. I hate Honey Nut Cheerios, but it's he feels like that kind of guy. He thinks a box of sugar is okay for breakfast. He's a fucking weirdo. I'm sure he drinks the fullest, fattest of milk. Like, it just that's how he.
Go whole or go home, guys.
Soy
Go
milk
whole
or
go
nothing,
home.
kids. Soy milk or nothing.
Are you
Anyway,
actually a soy? Are you
I am
lactose
a soy
intolerant
boy.
though?
No, I'm a soy boy. I just actually like soy milk.
Ooh,
I like soy milk and I
ooh.
like vegan chicken nuggets. Anyway, there's like the thing is I don't like using the term forced diversity because a lot of people use it and are just dicks with the word. They don't actually mean anything useful with it. But I do think people pressuring you to make your character something is dumb.
I think you shouldn't you can request to see like if you want to demand like more like better like representation as a whole or better quality representation, yes, but you don't go to personally to an author and say things like this person should be gay instead and stuff like.
Yeah.
For me, especially like if you don't have that rapport and like you can't really back it up for reasons other than
I also want to
does it
establish that this is a problem that arises because I was having a conversation with one of my students the other day. We were talking about reading. We're trying to get all the kids into reading, so we talk about reading a lot. And I was talking to the student about reading, and he finally understood that he had power as a reader when it came to something he was reading. Right? He could impart meaning onto a comic if he wanted to, and we found that out because we were reading Hamlet. I think it was Hamlet, and we realized that Hamlet could be easily portrayed to be gay if you thought about it the right way and you saw a couple of the angles, right? But then I started thinking about it in terms of webcomics and media that we make live. Hello, Mikey. Media that we make live in the moment. Because webcomics especially have a unique thing where you're making them, your comments are right under them, and everything you're doing is happening all live. You go back to write, but you're writing like 2 centimeters away from being able to see what everyone thinks of your characters. And because a lot of readers have a lot of power. Hell, they probably have more power than you as a creator. But quite honestly, they will try to use that power on you. But because of the new media we live in, because of the live way which we experience comics, you end up with this weird disconnect where the author clearly has a direction, but the reader is trying to use their powers as a reader to impart meaning onto something, and they will take whatever meaning they want to see. It's their decision; they get to do it. I think that's where we are, and we just kind of la mort the death of the author is stronger than ever because of the internet. And you're not wrong, but as an author, I think that you can still put some life into that situation and just like stand for it.
I think it depends if your motivation is money or something else when you create.
Yeah. I mean, like,
who knew you were so interesting then? Who's this?
I know. I just a friend of a friend.
Yeah. Okay. Diversity in the current state of things feels more like token minority than actual diversity. Well.
Hey,
what
death of an author. What diversity? The problem with what?
Token minority than actual diversity right now.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah. I mean. Okay.
Back then, we had racist representations of minorities,
we had racist
and now it's like
now it's not racist. It's just insensitive. I think one of my favorite statements that I've ever experienced about the fact of how Western media portrays anyone who isn't like
cishet white
male basically is Western media has that's fine. Western media has the West has a very specific, unique ability to be insensitive for no fucking reason, but other than the fact that they can, like you can see it in the way, like, for example, when you say specific names, or the fact that like British people refuse to say fillet for a literal fillet and would rather call it a fillet. Like the West has a unique way of just like taking all the nuance out of something because it's immediately not what they want it to be. And and you and
that's the kind of discomfort we're talking about. Not so much sad stuff, but just stuff that you're not accustomed to necessarily.
It's what it is. And it's what it is. And I'm not saying, I don't think it's the end of the world or anything. I'm just saying, like, the way it affects comics is probably one of the reasons why lots of people can't publish like normally. It's also
get
one
into
of the reasons
Marvel,
why
but
people.
oh, sorry about the
Yeah,
horn.
it's all
Like
right.
it seems to be very much in approval of what we're saying.
Yes, Car. Seize the methods of. I'm not doing this again.
No, no.
No, but like the
I'm so
idea.
sorry.
Sorry, no, my brain is trying to like put together a thought. The lack of nuance with which Western media tends to approach things is very, very, very obviously noticed when you are like reading a comic where they're trying to be representative of people or trying to talk about complicated issues. It's just there. It's like I talked about that prison issue and the drugs issue, right? The drugs prison issue and drugs issue of Spider-Man earlier, right? Amazing Spider-Man 96, 7, 8, and 9. 99 is the one about prison. Like, most comics could have done a whole thing about how the prisons were unsettled and then they would have a riot and no one would really know why. But as a reader, you would get it. And then Spider-Man would swoop in and like there would be, it's all right. And there would be like a situation where like there was a fight, but then there was an understanding, right? This comic literally has a panel where like the guys just go, Spider-Man, nobody listens to how we feel as prisoners. And by the way, it's literally a black guy written in that way. Spider-Man, nobody listens to how we feel as prisoners. And, you know, we feel underrepresented and nobody cares about us. And Spider-Man's like, you're right, but this isn't the way to go about it, chaps. How about I go talk to that warden for you? All right, we'll release the warden from where we're hiding him. Like, this is so on the nose. There is no fucking nuance. There is just, all right, sure. Like, this is genuine dialogue.
Kari's comments aren't showing up on stream? That's so weird. Like,
shit, I think I think I actually muted him once.
You declare your love for him all the time.
And I don't fucking mute. I fucking mute my boyfriend. Oh no. I'm so sad.
Oh no.
I'm so depressed. I can't believe I fucking done it again. This is why
Oh god.
Don't tell me he's rejected me while I'm not looking. Has he like gone, I'm not your boyfriend? If he does that, I'm gonna cry. I feel like he'll do that now just to make me cry.
I find this very amusing.
Classic meme.
And the whole thing like a bit of, I'm not your boyfriend. Just like I'm just like I mean, I'm sure you can make him. You can make it up to him another time. I'm sure.
Oh wait, no, I can see him. Why is he not showing up on Thingy Bob?
Yeah, why is he not showing up?
He's not blocked or anything here.
Check Restream, man.
It's Restream. Oh, maybe.
Did you mute? You can mute people on Restream, I think.
I think maybe I did, and like Restream just hasn't reversed it.
Oh gosh. All right. Let's just get back to some of the stuff that's been spoken about in there. So you were speaking about the whole Spider-Man thing not having a nuance. I have two thoughts on it. So firstly, yes, we have page count limits, which is really oh god. It's both like a pro and a con. I get pacing is a thing, but yeah.
I fixed it.
I get pacing is a thing. Pacing is a thing, which not to say like I'm trying to defend it, but that's probably why. But that's why in the chaos of like trying to decide what to keep and what not to keep. That's why these sorts of things like happen. Secondly, is because culturally speaking, not all like white groups. Oh god, I feel so bad every time I just say anything.
Look. I want us to be established when we say this. We don't mean everyone who's a white person is a bad person. It's just that a lot of the people who tend to make Western comics tend to be white.
Thank you. And yes, especially under the big two.
Yeah, under the big two tend to be white. And unfortunately, we must discuss the thing from that perspective because that's also where a lot of the sensitivity comes. The pale human creatures have begun to make us feel bad. Joking, go on, Kaz.
Now, I won't say that this is the case for a lot of various Western groups, but particularly America, I see that there's a lot of like it's really like pretty much like direct and nuance is a thing that seems to exist nuance being so indirect sort of exists a lot more in other cultures. Not so much
Yeah.
America.
I mean, to be fair, America lacks nuance, not by their any fault of their own, just because they are America. Like, this is a country where they think the solution to their problems is a gun. Like, I don't think they understand what fucking nuance
White.
is. Like, I feel like the concept of Chekhov's gun as a writing tool was literally exclusively made for America.
Well, I mean, even though Chekhov is not like a very like American.
I mean, let's be
name,
honest. Yeah, I know, but it's just like he made it thinking, oh, this is a great writing device. And America went, Chekhov's gun? Don't you mean our gun? Pulls it out, shoots the dog.
Yep, I think Sesame is very, very angered by the thought of Chekhov's gun. Oi, shush. I think.
Her dog looks like a chicken nugget. I want us to be stressed. No one ever is here when I want to talk. Yeah, he just
only if he's shaved.
Yeah. Chekhov's gun.
Hang on.
Chekhov's AR.
I will go and hug him to quiet him down. Just one moment.
All right. To be honest, the whole diversity and representation slant feels like modern day version of the white man's burden. So it's weird, Carrie, because there is a necessity. And there is a reason for diversity and representation. And you're not wrong. A lot of the people who are pushing it now tend to seem to push it for the wrong reasons. Hey. Don't attack American spelling. All right? As a young dyslexic man myself, I think American spelling is fucking great because I got to get away with spelling things like a fucking idiot. The amount of times I spelled mold without a U, it took me like 5 years to realize mold can be spelled with a U. I didn't know this, by the way. Like, I grew up in a household where my mother just didn't say anything. And by the time I realized, she was like, yeah, you were spelling it wrong the whole time, but I couldn't be bothered. Like, you still passed.
To be honest, the whole diversity and representation slant feels like modern day version of white man's burden. I'm not very clear about what this white man's burden is.
You don't know what white man's burden is? White man's burden is the perspective of a certain group of white people that it's their responsibility to right the wrongs that have been committed, or to do a thing in terms of making the world a better place in some vague bullshit way. And I know what
why don't they let the actual people do shit rather than like try and speak for them?
To do so would be to admit the fact that they fucked up so badly and that they should fuck off.
The nuance thing. Yeah. This is a country made in new time English because they hated spelling. Yeah, dropping letters and stuff like that. You have
to read the circle.
You're yeet. Damn it, Sketchy.
Basilisk, please. You're yeet. She didn't. Everyone doesn't need to be represented. So it's a big deal when you represent people in your community. Like, people think it's like a very small, meaningless thing. No one will ever notice. We always fucking notice. Like, I noticed the first time I saw a black guy in a comic. I noticed the first time I realized that I was gay, and I saw a gay guy in television. It's a big deal because you think about it for a lot. Mm-hmm. And you start to, and the thing is, like, people don't understand how much media really affects you. You start to think that that's who you are to some extent, especially when you're very young. Like, so there's something called the magical black man thing. There's also something called the magical gay man thing, which is how in a lot of old-timey movies, in an attempt to appear like they were representing characters fairly, they made these characters almost omniscient. Like, the black guy always had some old-time folky wisdom to say that would make you realize what you were doing wrong. And the gay guy always had some amazing way to tell you how to fix your love life. And darling, you're a star. Like, what happened to me there? But like, you know, that used to be a movie trope. And like, if you grew up watching that stuff, and then you realize that you were one of those things, you get to a point where you start thinking, is that me? Mm-hmm. Am I supposed to be like that to be normal? And it doesn't help when a lot of people grow up thinking that that's normal. And then you're the stranger. Like, representation allows you to realize that your expression is important. The way you express things doesn't matter. Like, I talked about it with Shama a lot, but in the UK and America, if you grew up as, like, I lived in Africa, right? a lot of second generation African immigrants who live in this country don't think I'm African. They literally have called. One of them said, "I didn't even think you were not from the UK. You act very British. You just seem like one of the random people I see. Like, I don't think you've ever experienced your culture before." One of them tried to lecture me on how hard it is to live in Africa. Like, genuinely, that's fucking rich. You know.
I got that before I even went to the UK when I was living in Malaysia, but that's also another can of worms.
But like, you see what I mean? Like, it's like, I thought I was the weird one because I didn't live the way they did. And I didn't think it was okay. And they didn't think it was okay that I wasn't this carbon copy of what they considered culture, their culture had to be like. And if there's more representation, I get to experience more people who are like me, who think, well, I don't really follow that culture a lot, but like, I'm still this guy and I still understand what it's like to be this guy. I'm just not this guy that much. You know?
Yeah, so this is definitely something that I have experienced in terms of discussion before. And another person who us Malaysians, we're pretty damn good at being all over the world because everyone talks about leaving Malaysia.
I went to school with a lot of you. Yeah, I went to school with a lot of you.
You went to school with a lot of mainlanders as well.
Yeah. But that's also the reason why. That's also the reason why I know what like kampong is, and I know what bread and ice cream is. Like, it's just
bread and ice cream is
disgusting.
Like,
I thought it was a great idea until I had it. It's horrible. everyone who's from Singapore.
What bread are you using? What bread are you using?
Leave me alone. Everyone who's from Singapore, right? Everyone's from Malaysia. You're all wrong. You're all wrong people with wrong ideas.
Then come over here and we'll actually offer bread and ice cream. So here's the thing, right? I mean, it's pretty much like sandwich bread. Like, don't go with the posh thing. Go with plastic sandwich bread, and then like you shove like ice cream in it, like slice the ice cream. Don't like scoop it because it's a little harder to like enjoy it. Do you toast? No, but you can have bread and ice cream in the form of Shibuya toast, which is like a toast brick, and then you put the ice cream and drizzle all sorts of nice syrup and shit over there.
I have just started a whole fucking thing about absolutely.
You don't wrap your ice cream in sourdough.
Well, excuse me, fuck off. Who uses sourdough bread in the middle of the day? What's wrong with you if you're eating sourdough at like 2 p.m.? Fuck off. No.
I do. Okay, my mom bakes it.
I use a standard Kingsmill loaf, all right? And Kingsmill is a shit bread, don't get me wrong, but it's not good with us.
You go shittier.
How can you get shitter bread than Why are we having this argument? Stop it, everyone. All of you. This madness must cease.
Ice cream representation or we riot.
You should be showing up in chat, but you're showing up for me now, and I can see you saying all these things, Carrie. For some reason, it just won't. Let me reload. You know what, Carrie? Just for you, I'm gonna reload the chat thing. I'm gonna reload the
restream thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Let's go back to some of the other chats over here. Right. Let's see. Representation done right is important to groups doing representation. So my own personal experience as a Chinese, like Chinese born in Malaysia, born and raised in Malaysia. So I mean, quick history lesson for those of you who don't know. We're sort of the equivalent of like American born like Asians, but except because of the nature of Malaysia, we don't stick out as a sore thumb as much, and I can't say we 100% relate to them.
Although for several reasons, a lot of you are pushed out of the government of your own country because they don't think you belong. But that is an entirely different issue to be covered at an entirely different time.
Yes, it's a different issue. So what happens is that we get a lot of people who gatekeep and say that this piece of media isn't like isn't like written really by like a real Malaysian, and like they say things like these people lived abroad for a bit, so it's not a real representation of what it's like to be Malaysian, or these people didn't grow up in like a stupidly conservative Asian kind of mindset, so it's not representative of Malaysia. And one of my favorite authors in the like she's about like a millennial age group. She's called Raymana Yi, and she does a webcomic called The Carpet Merchant of Constantinia, which is now published as 2 books, 2 novels. She's based in Australia, but she's pretty much a webcomic artist and writer too. She said, right, why does being true Malaysian have to fit like a sort of narrow like mold of something? And as long as there are like more Malaysian authors getting like getting eyes on them out there, does it matter? Do they have to only write about Malaysian experiences in the kampungs to be considered truly Malaysian authors? Do they have to like have lived that sort of life to be considered truly Malaysian authors? That's like, I mean,
no, you're completely right. As in, from someone who's from a country where that's a similar thing I get told a lot, I think the reason why they care so much about that shit, and like, I could be wrong. I usually am not, because I'm the equivalent of a god. But this could be one of those moments where I might be wrong, right? And it doesn't happen often, of course. But the reason they don't want to accept that you are Malaysian unless you've lived all those struggles, quote unquote struggles, is because if they genuinely accept that, they then have to accept the fact that like their vague idea of national identity is non-existent. And for a lot of them, that's not okay. It's like how British people like to pretend like there's a British way to live. Yeah, we eat crumpets and we drink tea. And like British people
and that's why you have Boris Johnson with a bigger majority.
Yeah, but you see what I mean? Like they like to believe that there is some identity to being British. They like to believe some identity to being Nigerian or being Malaysian. There isn't. But they've created this faux identity. And because they've created this faux identity, they will then funnel everyone through it. And as a creative person, you then go, I'm not that, because while being creative, I experienced so many different cultures trying to, broaden my horizons, that I've changed and I'm no longer that person. And I can no longer be that person. But because you're no longer that person, they don't think you're okay. And yes, wheelchair representation for all. One wheelchair.
Yeah. Let me look at some of the comments here. So most of my representation is done with robots or aliens, and I mean I think it's a little bit less these days. I think the whole like robots and aliens thing was maybe at one point it was well-meaning, but it was definitely quite insensitive.
I mean,
very insensitive.
It's because when people don't know, it's quite hard for them to write stuff like that, and it's
or like, you okay? So autistic people. We had a discussion with this like in some other friend groups. Anyone on the spectrum is represented as either a savant with like crazy savant
Rain Man, think Rain Man,
crazy ass like brains, and easy for exploitation. They're just like they're brilliant, but what the hell is their speech? And the other end of it is I hate this so much, artistic screecher types that go and I hate that is what kind of like what is that's the discourse about like what autism is like, and it's let alone like the kind of stuff you see in the comics or like other media.
As a teacher now who teaches in a very special ed school, and that's what we call in the UK, we call it special ed, or SEN to be more accurate. I teach in a SEN school.
Special education needs, right?
Yeah, special education needs and dyslexia. So I teach in a school with a lot of SEN students, and I know that is not who they are. It didn't take working here for me to realize that, but as the experience really does change how you contextualize and explain it to people, because you're just like, that's who they are. Like there's a lot of students who I talk to who I have to speak to in a very specific way. I don't get mad at, I don't get frustrated with, because I need to understand. I understand how they approach what I'm saying, And like a lot of people refuse to get that. They just wait, well, why don't you just get it? Like, and you're just there like, no, they're people. That's not how they work. They don't work like you or I, because we are different people altogether. We all work differently. I like things being said one way. He likes things being said another way. Don't treat this person like they're fucking strange. They're just another person who likes being treated a certain way, like everyone else. But like a lot of the teachers that we got, a lot of the new teachers we got are fucking weird about it. And they haven't adapted. They say weird things. They get very upset with a lot of students who are autistic because they just say, why would you do that to upset me? And I'm like, no, he's not. He just genuinely is out of place right now. You need to help him get on track, or else you're gonna fuck this up. You know, like one of our students is on a strict schedule. He has a very strict schedule. I found it out the hard way because I once took him the wrong route to his classroom, and he fucking like belted out a scream for like 20 minutes because he just got very confused, you know. But like once I got that down, I know his route. I've memorized it all around the school. I'm that one teacher who knows everyone's name. So, you know, whenever I see him, if he's lost, I follow the exact route I know he likes. It's a longer route. It always makes me late to my class, but whatever. It gets him where he needs to go, right?
And at least he functions better that way. I mean, it's a small price, quote unquote, to pay.
But there's a teacher in the school who hasn't gotten that. And she'll fully like see him and be like, why don't you go that way? It's faster. And then she gets mad at him thinking that he's trying to avoid going to class. But it's just, no, he has a route.
Is it? And you say that your school is a special needs
one? Like these teachers are new. These teachers are all new. The ones who are making these mistakes are actually all new.
Oh, that's painful.
And they're also all trainees. They've never taught at a SEND school before. They all come from grammar schools. They all come from very posh places. I don't know why they're here. This town is a shithole, but they're here.
I mean, the fact that you haven't got like explicit training for this sort of thing and you're able to relate is pretty damn good. Yeah. I mean, apart from the swearing on stream, I think. But...
How dare you? Oh crap! I've been swearing this whole time, haven't I?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. We can just shoot out an
I need to make the command and then just give people the ability to hurt me with it. Dang nabbit.
Okay, let's jump back to some of the comments. Yeah, so let's see about like how to become a Dutch author. Is just write the book in Dutch originally. If the first edition is published in Dutch, it's how
to become a Dutch author. Write the book in German. Get it popular in Germany. Write it in Dutch. Call it a second edition. Be rich.
Nah, it's not considered Dutch literature though.
But yeah, but like you still make money.
Okay, so what Carrie is saying about the national identity not being strong enough in Malaysia and Singapore, that a writer can just write what they want and still be identified as being from that nation. Yeah, unless you write about like certain like bits of history and stuff, and which is it's painful, but at the same time, right? I can see a point because unlike say America and England and like Germany, where you have like again, this pains me, like very, very specific, like stereotypical narratives of like colonization and what you will, and the language and aesthetics. Yeah, Malaysia and Singapore, like what the quote unquote like national identity was beforehand is a little bit more nebulous. It's a little bit more nebulous.
Speaking of colonization, this is a complete tangent. Are you still saying something? Finish it, then I'll say my thing. It's complete.
No,
tangent.
I'm pretty much done.
Okay, a complete tangent. I saw a video on YouTube recently from Folding Ideas, and it reminded me of something that I did as well when playing a game called Minecraft. You probably heard of it. It's an indie game, you know. He was talking about how he wanted to move a bunch of villagers because he needed to make the village closer to where him and his friends were in his little family and friend server, right? And he literally went to the village, beat them until they got onto the boat, and then rode them away to a new village he had made for them so that they could be in a convenient location for his needs. And in that moment, he realized that he had just done a colonialism. To which I say, shit, so I have also done a colonialism. And I am now very afraid of playing Minecraft. like he beats... No. It's just because I was talking about my friends. I was like, the villagers are vaguely ethnic. And you beat them onto a boat against their will, force them to move to a town that they shouldn't move to. You need to do it to at least 2 villagers, and then they can reproduce and then give you the people you want to do the thing you need.
Oh gosh.
I just want this to be known that it's possible. I don't know why I'm sharing this here, but hi everyone, you can do that in Minecraft. It's fucked up. Anyway, moving on. I love chaos.
let's look at this that this discussion about robots/aliens coded as autistic
Autism.
or
Yeah.
like
It's I personally already see it. A lot of my students really like robot characters, and they say it's for the exact same reason, because they say like it's similar to what they did. And one of them talked about how it's about the lack of social sensitivity, the lack of awareness of other people in the way that they want to be felt, and a strange inability to understand, and yet a want to understand. And it's something they talk about a lot. At least the kids are good. Data would probably be really good for that.
Yeah, I suppose I can see why it does feel a little bit painful, because like because of the association that the only way that that by extension these autistic humans who are reading the media can only like be better known as aliens or robots.
Oh, fair enough. Data was a lieutenant commander. At Webcomics Hub, this has very strong parallels with how it happened in the past, since the colonialists mostly viewed the indigenous part subhuman, like how you view Minecraft villagers. I love how like there's a little gap, and then we're taking a little breather, and then he just fucking drops that. At Webcomics Hub, Folding Ideas got one thing wrong in that game. Zombie villagers spawn everywhere, not just villages, meaning you don't have to make that yeah, but turning a zombie villager back into a villager is a very complicated task. Why am I talking about Minecraft? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Minecraft Hub. The show all about Minecraft and video.
The highlights reel is going to be immense for this episode.
Faith is gonna love doing this because she's gonna have so much fun.
Who?
Faith. She's the one who does our highlights. Faith. The clone.
Oh, I didn't realize it was Faith. It was Faith.
It's been Faith this whole time. Yeah, she's the clone. She's so behind. She's very upset about it.
It's okay. We love you, Faith.
We do love you, Faith. I judge you every moment of your life. When you listen to this on your computer, while you listen to it on your video edit, I want you to know. I think Backlist is
this hard for you. My problem with robots and aliens being awesome code is that all your representation isn't human. Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah. This is what we've been saying the whole time. Representation is important because it helps inform people somehow in some ways how to feel about themselves. And like
it shouldn't be taken as gospel.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But if you're young, you're looking for answers. It should be easy to. It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be made hard for you to find an answer that makes you feel okay. That's all I'm saying.
And if anything, do it for the children, man.
Do it for the kid. Don't touch
somebody
the kids.
Think of the children.
No, wait. Unless you're a pedophile, don't think of the children. If you're a pedophile, stop it.
Yeah. Just because we don't read out every comment, Basil, doesn't mean we haven't seen it or understood.
We read all of them, so don't worry about it. I saw what you said about Newt Scamander, and I thought about it. I never like talking about J.K. Rowling because I have personal problems with her. But I think you're right about how he's portrayed. And if he felt represented, that's good. That's very good. Welcome back, Jenny.
Basically, representation done right is great. Done poorly can be terrible. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But the problem is, like, while that's a situation, we shouldn't conflate representation as a bad thing. But a lot of people do. The main problem is a lot of people will conflate it as just a bad thing outright. That's where like
for different reasons. For different reasons. Firstly because it's done terribly in a lot of cases. Secondly, because they're racist, discriminatory pricks. Like no other way to say it. So
this is the bit that I'm gonna say the thing I've been hiding and I didn't want to say for ages. So the Comicsgate thing is really fucking weird. Oh. But there's something out of it that I saw that was really funny, and I don't remember where I saw it. I don't remember where I heard it. But one of the Comicsgaters said, and I quote, "Only Americans should be making comics because only they understand how to make real comics." Like it's not a view shared by all of them, by the way.
Japan be like 自分の漫画を持ってください.
I don't even think it's a view shared by like half of them or even a quarter. I just wanted to be honest that some people, like, I want you to understand like the depths these people can go. Like one of the things they literally said is, this is why we should get women out of comics. Like about a woman, female comic character, just because she's female. There's a lot of problems there. Like they attack female comic creators, female comic characters. And this is where webcomics in general is just like way, way ahead. We're finally talking about webcomics, despite the fact that this is a webcomic channel. Fuck off if you're thinking about that joke. It's where webcomics is way ahead. Because webcomics is super representative.
Go on.
No, they've always been super representative. Like, no matter what webcomic I've read, go. Say
because you just pretty much like you create, you maybe get a few of your friends to like check for like like any mistakes and stuff. You put it out there and you're done. You don't have to go through layers and layers of bureaucracy and stuff.
Yeah.
And I say this with a lot of love because you and I are editors and and our job is also sometimes to like bring the creators in. But when need be,
I'm having so many flashbacks. Oh, the pose, Jay. Why did you make me do that? It was a 1 hour argument about a pose.
The way you say that makes it sound like he made you pose to take a reference and use that.
I mean, maybe.
Not understanding part puts the owners and the writer creators to properly do their research or get sources that can teach them the difference. Yeah. I mean, a lot of good, well-written stuff is all properly researched, and it also gladly admits that it has the potential to that it's never complete research.
Yeah. I will admit, like, there's a lot of the webcomics, a lot of the comics have such a different target market. A friend of mine, Shama, said it's the equivalent of like a coal mining factory making coal for years for fuel, and then one day just going, fuck it, let's take all the coal and put it into beauty products. And like,
wait, is it coal and beauty products?
Yeah. Charcoal masks, man. Charcoal masks.
That's different, isn't it?
Yeah, but no, it's just coal.
Coal and charcoal are different.
They're the same. I'm not having this argument with you. Anyway, like, and for a lot of the people who are reading the comic books at the time, that's what it felt like. It felt like such a massive shift without any of them being there, and like, it wasn't. But because it felt like that to them, it really threw them off. And while Carrie is right, we should try to help them understand this. There's also the reality that for some of them, this is just the antithesis of who they want to be, who they are.
They're just lazy.
Wow. She's so mad. But like, yeah, for some of them, it's just the antithesis of who they are. And like, yeah, they're a bit lazy. They should probably get to the fucking, like, just get with the times, kid. But like, it's not that easy.
Thank you, Basil. One is a fossil fuel. The other is like produced by
support her, Basil. This doesn't fucking matter. All right? It's just coal. Who gives a shit? My name is Bill Murray.
I mean, we do have fossil fuel products in in beauty products because petroleum, mineral oil and shit like that. But come on, man, come on.
I've never been threatened by the love of fossils before. I was like, I like fossils, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I've yet to also see a Pokemon that can be resurrected from charcoal, but from fossils, yeah, absolutely, yep. Or get this, they don't actually want to write the stuff, and
I sell
that's
propane
okay, but
and
you
propane accessories. King of the Hill.
You don't have to. If you don't want to write it, you don't have to. But if other people want to write it, let them have that space.
It's not about writing it, though, Carrie, and I think maybe you're misunderstanding where I'm coming from. It's not about creating the content. It's about the fact that it's not okay. Don't create it if you don't want to create it. Don't create it if you don't want to create it. But then
don't force people to create it if they don't want to create it.
Yeah, but then don't turn back and then say that's bad because it's that thing, and then go on to then harass those people on the internet and then talk about how they don't deserve their careers because they're not making the kind of content you like, and then make content that is specifically designed to just be very, very, very insensitive and racist. Like there's there's a spin-off of Boku no Hero Academia that's literally called My Hero Magadamia, like Make America Great Again, Damia.
Mixed nuts with macadamia. That's the comic that everyone's talking about now.
It's almost an analogy, except at the end, it's like I'm terrible at beauty products because I haven't bothered to like learn how to make them. Like that's literally Marvel and DC right now. Yeah, it's Marvel and DC right now. They just haven't been bothered to learn how to make beauty products properly. But they've hired all these people who can make them. But then they haven't given them the opportunity to make them properly. I'm gonna look in media now and see what this is.
Oh god, this has been quite the episode today. Like, and we've only just talked about
this boy just
we
fucking
only just talked about like
put a whole
race.
log in the fucking voice. Wait, is this a dinosaur thigh bone? Motherfucker.
Wow. Nen, how much money are you on right now?
I'm literally on like full cred. I'm so fucking broke this month already. Like this is not helping my
4.2.
Oh shit.
Well, you're gonna make someone's Christmas, you know that, right?
I know, right? I already.
Hey, people who hate our beauty products, yeah, cause I
Tell
suck.
them they don't understand beauty products. Look at here. I paid to do this shit. Go do it. Also,
oh no, that's actually pretty astute.
Yeah, I mean, like
that.
this is the thing. The Marvel industry refused to move forward. They refused to learn how to make the beauty products. They refused to read about them to understand them. And then they bitch about the fact that nobody wants to make that. And then they bitch about the fact that like no one's accepting it. But there's like it's a multitude of problems piling onto each other, wherein like the people who anti-representation are wrong, but the people who are anti the industry not moving forward to do their representation right are just right. The industry should move forward.
I think the solution is like vote with your dollars.
Yeah.
Stop reading Marvel. Go and like support.
Give money to your local indie webcomic creators. Give me money.
Yes.
I deserve your money.
Give me money too.
Give her money too.
Yeah.
We deserve your money. Give us the monies, kids.
No, you know what you sound like right now?
Give me your soul.
You know what you sound like right now?
Yeah, what?
Jerry Maguire, show me the money.
Show me the money. Yeah, you either give me your money or you give me your soul, kids. Give me your soul. Give me your soul.
Okay, I don't know. I swear, like we should. I don't know, with whatever money, then like
I've saved up our money, and we're at a point where we have about $60, which isn't a lot of money, but I'm gonna put some money into that, and then I'm gonna see if I can spend the time and some of the money to make like really good graphics, because I want us to not only finish making more it's a bobbler on YouTube, making more podcast stuff with like the shortcasts, but I also want us to make an RPG. I really want to do an RPG.
Damn.
I really want to do. I want us to do a TTRPG where we just like play the Exco RPG. Like it's a one-time thing that doesn't have to work all the time. Can be crap.
Wait, we actually do a TTRPG based on like a
webcomic. Yeah, it doesn't have to work because it's mostly for the jokes. But like it'd be funny to do stuff like in an ordinary one where it's like the main character, like one of your stats is angst. or like an Exco one, it's like the Exco one, you're a pencil and like your main skill is sharpness. Like for every turn, every turn I can roll a d6, and if I hit a 5 or higher, I can write something on a piece of paper to use later.
No. I have a vested interest in Exco, obviously, because I that's how I started my webcomics editing career. So it's just like, no, we have to make it, Kari.
I just think it will be fun, like as a one-time thing to run. You know, it will mean I have to read like a ton of stuff, and I have to make like code stuff, but it will allow me to like pay someone to do the extra coding and the extra art.
One thing I want to like just dip back to again, like with regards to like new project ideas, is that I wish that we could get like somebody to like illustrate, sort of like sketch out a funny moment in this class, like the whole like the whole like make beauty products out of coal thing is a pretty good analogy.
Oh wait, Kaz, how are you doing with that editing video? Because the people are waiting. Trust me, they are.
Oh wait, you mean the video as about typesetting?
Yeah, typesetting.
Oh.
Typesetting.
Oh my god.
Typesetting.
Oh my gosh. I've been like chipping away at that amongst like a bunch of other different projects. Thank you.
I believe in you. I was asked yesterday, why don't you review webcomics? And I don't think I've ever told you about it, have I? Do you know why I don't review webcomics?
Because you get angsty as fuck.
No, fuck off. No, it's because don't call me out. No, it's more honestly because like if you say something mean about someone's comic, because if it's like if I insult Rob Liefeld, who gives a shit? He's a millionaire. He doesn't care what I say. If I insult like some no-name webcomic creator who's trying to make their name on the internet because I think their comic is bad, because it is, right? They might not be capable of separating the webcomic
of their work from
their own
themselves.
Yeah, and then they will take that as oh my god. Please stop, David. And they would take that as a personal
Sesame
attack.
Yeah.
Sesame, we get it. You don't like no-name webcomics. Stop it. Don't be racist, Sesame. Anyway, so
he has a point. So here's the thing. Hubcast in its earliest incarnation before Nen was became my co-host.
It used to be.
It existed with me as a moderator, and we have a couple of other people as more like color speaking. So I spoke a lot less than I do currently. And whenever we interviewed like creators, we would give we review on their stuff, and we actually did scoring and stuff. And we decided after a few misses that we were not in the.
I just don't want. I don't want to say mean things about people, but I want to say mean things about people's work.
We try to keep any commentary, any critique,
Nice,
a bit more
good.
objective,
yes.
But it can also be quite subjective as well. So and then we sort of scrap the whole dedicated review thing
because I am
every character that came on, and the show just took on the direction of its own where it's
the only thing that I criticize is comedy because I am the god of comedy. I am the laughter king. I am the trickster god, and when I say jokes
bloody hard.
When I say the joke isn't funny, the joke isn't funny. All right.
Well, you're the joke, Nen. You're the joke, and you're not funny.
All right. I need you to understand. You want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drunk.
Okay. Yeah. That was something pretty bad, especially when we had
terrifying.
When we had two creators on at the same time well. So
I used to live stream it and not speak, and I need everyone to understand this. I used to leave the room when they did this. They don't know. This is the first time Kaz has probably heard this because I used to be muted and live streaming and recording the audio. I would get up when they did this section of the podcast and leave the room all the time.
I did not know this.
Yeah, I know.
So eventually, we also had issues where we didn't prep the creators well enough to know that this was happening. So I eventually stepped up from doing more moderation on the show itself to include pre-production prep and bias again. But Kari's episode was the first time I actually did some of the production work. And
Kari's episode was really funny because Kari's the most objective. He has pride in his work, but he doesn't have the ego where it's he doesn't have an ego where he can take criticism. So it was everyone else was awkward about it. But when Kari Hookers was yeah, I think you're right, dude. That's definitely what I'm on board with. And I was just what the fuck?
So it really helped as well. But
that was the day I fell in love with Carolus.
Well, I mean. I think a lot of people kind of fell for Kari that day because he was also one of the sassier ones that we had.
He also
on
said
the
Kya. He
on
said
the pre-show
Kya on live stream. He was like Kya, which was my ringtone, which was my text ringtone for a month.
Do you still have the recording?
No, I'm gonna get it back later. Don't worry.
I'll try and find a recording for you of him butchering karaoke, but that was about last year.
You're so happy. How did you know?
But this episode's turning into a karaoke appreciation stream though, and we love you, but we have already had an episode with you, and we should schedule another one at some point about a different topic.
Another one with Sophism because I want to ask her really good questions about why she's obsessed with Conan, and has Conan finally replied to her emails?
And blood.
Yeah, no, that's F. F is obsessed with blood.
Oh yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, before we like cut off soon because it's already like past 2 hours. I
Oh
do
yeah.
want to ask, right? Because most of the representation we were talking about was we talked about the spectrum of it. We talked
Mm.
about we talked about race and like culture.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear about like sexual orientation because that's not really my within like my realm of like experience and expertise. So we did talk about like you being you said in your words you fuck pants
Yeah, I
but
fuck pants, kids.
yeah, okay, get back to that. So with what's the issue where it comes to like representation within these like the
So
sphere per se?
I mentioned earlier that there's the magical gay guy thing. There's a lot of stuff. Does this represent? Okay, so one of the key key moments of representation I've got when I realized that when I realized that iron skillets were kind of thick, yeah, was that straight up, a lot of people think that you'll make that like a lot of media tells you stuff like you're gonna make a choice eventually. You're not really pan. You're just gay but pretending to be pan, or you're just straight but pretending to be gay because you want to be accepted. Um,
Oh, that's painful. That's really
yeah.
painful.
So you spend a lot of time with representation telling you that you don't exist. And it doesn't help because culturally, a lot of people in the LGBT um, LGBTQ
etc
no
etc
LGBTQQ2ISAA
plus
think that you are actually that. They think you're actually faking it, you know? And it's not conducive to your mental health.
damn it sketchy, damn it sketchy.
I didn't
Yeah,
forget the allies. I
the
had all the
A, the
A's.
double A.
Yeah,
Yeah, like 2A.
LGBTQQ2ISAAP. Yeah. What's the
Yeah, that's
S?
quite a lot. I think. Do you remember back in the day when representation was like pretty much effeminate gays and butch lesbians?
Yeah, I know. I remember. There was an entire episode of Cow and Chicken where, and if you don't remember the show, you didn't have a life. Of Cow and Chicken where the lesbian characters walk into the show, and like they literally are carpet munchers, which is a very
Oh,
like they literally eat carpet, and they're
oh.
butch and they're very clearly lesbian, and that was like fucked up.
Yeah, the whole problem with representation of non-physical things, there's nothing to see except for like the way they dress, the way they walk, the
It's
kind of what they speak, like how they speak and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that was fucking wild. Everyone remembers that episode. Yeah, that was wild. And it's like, it's there is a lot to be seen about when it comes to non-physical things because like, so it's something that a lot of LGBT hold on, let me see if I can do it again. LGBTQI2SAAP groups are more in tune with is the fact that like there's something called gender expression,
Mm-hmm.
and gender expression is a thing, and like for a lot of people they don't express their gender. They believe there's only one true way to express your gender, and like comics and media seem to follow that idea, and it's only recently that they've been like, and only recently, especially with like K-pop, that they've been like, yeah, you can be effeminate and still be straight. You can be really butch and
Yeah.
still be gay. That's cool. That's normal. There's no need to be one way or another. You know?
Effeminate and straight is more prevalent than butch and gay, to be
Yeah.
honest,
But you see what I
in
mean? It's
in
like
Korean circles. But yes.
it wasn't a thing for a while. Like people didn't believe that you could do those things, and it's important that you can represent people like that because they get to know like it is normal to be who I am, and that's fine. And also, what is this saying? What is he saying? What the normal people clamor for to be represented is often not what the actual behavior is like. Yeah, they will be like the reason why all those magical black and gay characters exist because people are like represent the black people, represent the gay people, represent that one guy down the street who always eats paste. But then they don't really know what that guy down the street who eats paste really does. They just know he eats paste, so they make up some random bullshit, and then they say that's
I
who they
mean,
are.
I like I I like Todrick Hall. There's a very camp black dude, but he is only one person out of like the whole spectrum of black like LGBTQ. I'm sorry, I don't know.
LGBTI2SAAQ. No, LGBTQQ.
Can you type it up for me? Can you type it up for me so I can read it off
next? I'm just gonna type it in the chat. Okay, LGBTQQ. I2SAA. B.
Neo Kaido, right? I think what you missed like what we were saying about like the already made character and warp them into shit. We covered that earlier in the episode because we used Spider-Man as an example. Although I wouldn't say he's shit. Spider-Man,
he is, but let's not talk about that because I like him too. I just think he's not very good, but that's just me. I'm just starting shit for no reason, aren't I? He is. I love how we both watch Internet History. He's the reason why I know how to say it in the first place.
How you make both girlfriends.
Oh, yeah. Gwen Stacy dies because Spider-Man kills her. Although it turns out she actually cheated on him, had a baby, and then they justify the fact that he basically, like his girlfriend, whatever. And then Mary Jane dies eventually.
Yeah, I mean, but that's less to do with the fact that they tried to warp Spider. I mean, he's not shit because they warped Spider-Man into a different like.
I mean, Batman's just a bad guy. Anyway, let's not do this all over again. I've already said it. Batman is just a bad guy.
God, he could not keep a girlfriend. But yeah, like you see, these guys were already flawed whether they were cishet white or not. So I'm so sorry. Like I'm speaking like a Tumblr.
I love when you say cishet white. It fuels an internal conflict within me that lets me breathe a little longer.
I sound like a freaking Tumblrina and like dismissive and stuff, and that's not the kind of image I want to cultivate. And but yeah, removement of iconic superheroes. Yeah. But I mean, Grant. Okay, the whole thing about females in comics, and we did talk about it, and we did say stuff like, I mean, they're all like male archetypes instead.
I mean, personally, I'm gonna point this out. I'm a big fan of this. I want it to be understood that I really like the fact that they're all becoming women. Later, Bastard, we're ending in like a second, so yeah, we'll see you in the next stream, buddy. I'm a big fan of that stuff. I'm gonna put up in the end screen so we can just cover some stuff at the last minute. I'm a big fan of all that stuff. So for me, this is good. Original Spider-Man is a himbo. You are right. Not gender bend. I mean, like I'm a fan of new female characters coming up, taking the reins, becoming a new character. I like change in comics because, quite honestly, I'm tired of seeing the same people. But the problem is when the change happens, it's usually shit, and they don't really embrace the change. Like we said it earlier, they've got Miles, but they don't embrace who Miles is as a character. You know. They don't embrace his culture. They don't embrace who he could be. Yeah, they get like a female character, but they think it's unsafe to make her like openly sexually powerful as a woman. You know, they think it's like unsafe, but it's fine.
By the way, this sort of thing is not exclusive to just like Western superhero comics because we talk about I mean, in anime, I mean, sort of like concept like gratuitous like whatever language, like the occasional like words of like a foreign language being peppered here and there. That does not a foreign like culture make. That does not a foreign culture make. Oh my gosh.
I think that's pretty much all we got for the day.
He's very diverse, but it's not as
they have not used as much of his diversity as I think they could have. When he had an old cheeseburger in his pocket that he gave to Molecule Man. Yeah. Okay. The usual stuff that we said in every podcast, every show. Thank you very much for listening. I know we have to jet. We can't spend forever here. I hope you follow us on Facebook, I always say Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Webcomics Hub or at the WCHubcast.
Facebook.
Follow Kaz and I on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Earthbound_M. Follow Kaz on Twitter at Kazastrophe. Literally her Discord name, but like this is literally her Twitter name, her Twitch name, but not in Japanese. think about giving us some of your money or your soul on Patreon. Think of giving us some of your money and soul on Patreon. And literally, it will help us make some cool stuff that we really, really do want to make and hire editors. And it just makes the whole process of creation a lot easier. Follow us on Discord. Join our Discord. Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I did want to say, I think because we didn't really do a nutshell wrap up. I think my conclusion is that yes, representation is a dumpster fire, like wherever you look, whether it's in the big names or not. But if you don't like what you're seeing with the big names, you have every right to seek out indie creators, support them, push. I mean,
We're
give them
indie
the push they need to keep.
Support us.
Yeah. Yeah,
Also,
and don't impose necessarily on other people.
yeah. And also just be happy and embrace the fact that other people can be happy.
This is a long-ass topic.
You do. It is a long-ass topic. I hope you enjoy your weekend, guys. Think about giving us some of your money on patreon.com/Webcomics Hub. You can get the link. I'll just do a little bit of an exclamation mark. Patreon.
Suggest topics to us. Yes.
Comment
please.
down on the YouTube when this thing has been uploaded as a video about how you felt when I talked about race and stuff, and how you feel about representation
and fucking pans.
I want to know if you fuck pans. If you fuck pans, what kind of pans do you fuck? Because I fuck the right kind of pans. All right.
Oh no.
Thank you very much for listening all the way to the end. Good night.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for
whatever
listening.
you are. Big skillet.
You do you. You do you.
Big skillet is the funniest thing I've said in my life. Thanks, Nikaido. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.